Hey, what is going on, guys? Hope you're having a fantastic Sunday. Tonight, we are going to have some fun conversation. More than one topic tonight. Might get a little spicy, might get a little heated, it might get a little
You may see some emotions from Ryan.
Ryan may cry tonight. I mean, we just never know what's happening.
That's not happening, but there could be some emotion.
So we are in episode 99. So we're approaching 100 episodes here on the podcast. Super pumped about you guys in the chat, the conversations that we have, of course, the questions that you leave. So after we finish our two topics, if you got any questions, we may not go as long just because we've got two topics tonight, but drop those in the chat. We'll be glad to answer those. Of course, super chats get priority, but they're not required. And so, like I said, we're going to have super, super fun tonight. And of course, we want to give a big thanks to our podcast sponsor, Ascend AV. So if you want something home theater related, subwoofers, even the big subwoofers like he was moving today, the Ascendo 50, that Joker's a monster. Hit this guy up right here. Ascend AV. There we go.
Ascend I'm a pro now at moving those subs in that driver, though.
Dude, y'all made it look so easy.
It was really easy today. First time was not easy.
Ryan's been eating his Wheaties and he's been working out.
No.
Wasn't that? Oh, it's Celsius.
No, not at all. It's called buying a two-ton shop crane and doing it how you should do it with threaded rod and stuff. I had guys standing around not doing anything because it was that easy today.
And that's a 400-pound?
400-pound driver. And the reason we took it out, there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. It's the movers that I'm using to move it down to the basement will not move it with the driver in it. And it's not they're worried about damaging the sub. They're actually worried about the integrity of my stairs.
They're worried about falling through.
Yes, because it's going to go on a special dolly, and the dolly is going to put pressure on a very small footprint. Unlike, if you're spreading it out, like we move subs up and down stairs a lot, and big subs, JTR, Ascendo, PSA, all different kinds. But that weight is distributed over many different steps and over typically many different people. But when you put it on one spot under a very small footprint, they're just worried that it's going to be too much weight on a small space, and it'll, cause problems and everybody may die. But we took the driver out. It's ready to go. Yeah. So now the floor's just got to get done. We ran into some issues with the floor. They grinded it down, they sealed it, and then the sprayer that they were using to seal it clogged a little bit, so it got a little clumpy. So then they came back out and were redoing it, and they grinded it down again. But this time there was dust. They didn't get all the dust off, so when they resealed it, now there's like this gray haze underneath it. So I got to redo it again. But, things happen. Not worried about it. It'll be awesome when it's done because I saw what it could look like with the clumps on it. Take the clumps out of that. Oh, man, it's awesome. The thing's a black hole with no light in there. You can't see anything. Nothing.
Until you smile.
No. My teeth I don't have that white. Maybe if you smiled.
Is it a gloss surface or a matte surface?
It's matte. It is matte. And I don't know also if I'm happy with the Duratex on the top. It's not the paint, it's the OSB and how it adhered. And there's like it pulled some of the fibers down, like it got behind them. There's a little bit of bubbling on some spots. So I think I may put over some velvet or something over the top of it, just on the ceiling.
But it'll be behind something already.
Not on the ceiling. The ceiling, you'll be able to see some of it. You're going to have these floating clouds, and there's going to be backlit the trays. So you're going to be able to see the outlines of these clouds, and then you'll see the ceiling behind it. So you will be able to see the ceiling. Everything else, no. So I'm not worried about that. But the ceiling, I think I might have to figure something out because it's not quite how I wanted it.
So while we're on the topic of that subwoofer, do you have pictures to show everybody? You sent them to our chat, but can you show the audience?
No. I'd rather not.
You can't.
I'd rather not.
Those are private.
Yeah. It was super cool. I mean, just imagine things hanging from a 2-ton shop crane.
Yeah.
But it's just like any other driver. It's just bigger, right? That's all it is.
Huge.
I'll be right back. I got to go delete my post from Reddit.
So,
So what a lot of the guys, because nobody that came over today had seen it in person.
Mhm.
They'd seen pictures of it, and everybody that walked up just said, "Man, the photos do not do that thing justice."
They're like,
it's,
you're nuts, man.
it's way more intimidating when you see it in person, and it is. I mean, we had it out in the middle of the garage, and it looks way bigger and scarier, knowing that it's going to be 3 feet from my back in my theater in the Mad
I remember
VR
the first time I
Experience
saw
Center.
it almost looks unreal. Like it's like, I mean, it definitely is the Back to the Future. You know, you're looking at that going, that's not really a real subwoofer. And then they crank that joker up and it's like moving your chest cavity is like, okay, this is legit.
So when I saw it at Cedia 2 years ago, I thought it was just a publicity stunt just to get people's attention.
Right.
I didn't know it was going to be like a real thing.
So the theater, the one that is going into the Experience Center is that sub that you saw at Cedia.
Oh, that exact one?
Exact sub,
With a
and
new
we've
driver.
changed out the driver.
Yeah.
Nice.
The cabinet.
So that sub, as far as I understand, is the first one they made. That is the first one. So
that's pretty cool.
It is. It's got some history.
One got history.
Little pedigree.
I think that's quite cool.
I like that. That's cool.
That's all I got. Nothing else really exciting going on in
the
developments of the theater.
For the 100th episode, can we watch you move it down the stairs? I think that would be.
I am not going to be moving it. The movers are going to be moving it.
Film it live. We'll live stream it.
Let's not.
I think we should live stream the move.
Let's not.
I mean, the big 100.
I'll take a picture of it when it's down in the Experience Center, in the Mad VR Experience Center downstairs. But I'm outside of that, no.
Put it in your theater seat. That would look cool. Like just resting in the seat, the middle one.
Crushing it. There'd be no seat left. Hey guys, look at the suspension. Look at the undercarriage of this chair and how well it's standing up to 1,000 pounds of subwoofer.
Right.
But it was really odd.
Yeah.
Thinking this through and thinking, man, I'm looking for shop cranes to change out a subwoofer driver.
Yeah.
I was actually contemplating buying a shop gantry in order to do this. And the gantries are like what you would back a truck underneath to be able to do it, because then I could put it over top of the subwoofer. But I just went with a shop crane and it worked out fantastic. So no complaints. Nobody got hurt. Super easy. I'm a pro. I will travel the country to facilitate all of your subwoofer change out needs.
I saw this. I thought the same thing, Eric. Subwoofer crawl with the 50.
Yeah.
Nope.
Put that joker on wheels.
It is staying where it is staying. The nice thing, though, is that since it is an infra sub and it's not handling the high, what I'll call high frequencies for the low end, it's probably not going to have very much of an issue with any of its response, because I'm betting it's going to be below the what's the word I'm looking for?
Infrasonic?
No, the interaction point with the room.
Room mode.
There's a specific word that I'm trying to think of, and I just can't think of it. But I anticipate that it's not going to be much of a problem. And there's 50 in the front and the 232s in the 50 in the back and the 232s in the front.
Right.
So what frequency range do you intend to assign it? Like 0 to 30?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
Not sure yet. Room's going to dictate a lot of that calibration and figuring out what
probably
makes
has some rough recommendations.
He may or may not know what he's doing.
Or somebody.
He knows exactly what he's doing. But yeah, he'll come out. He's coming out. He's already said he's coming out to calibrate the room. So
cool.
It will be. It'll be super cool. And I'm just going to soak up everything that he's doing.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
That guy, he travels literally all over the world. I'm watching his Facebook post and he's like here to here and here to here. I mean, it's just literally every week he's flying somewhere else, man. He's all over the place.
But that was
really nice guy too.
Jed, it's not the Schroeder frequency. It's I'm thinking of another word, and it's not anything intricate. It's just I can't think of the word. But that was check that off the list. I was really worried about how that was going to go. I was worried about damaging the threads. I was worried about dropping the driver. I was worried about the crane collapsing. I was worried about the cabinet falling on somebody. You know, it was just now it's done. It's out of the cabinet.
You call your homeowner's insurance first just to make sure that was current and Everything was good.
Nah, we just went through that whole
You can
thing
roll with
with
it.
all that, so I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
But it all went smoothly, so
Sweet.
I'm relieved. Now I get to finish the floor, get the sub downstairs, put the
Mhm.
driver back in, and then start all the electrical stuff and figure out what I'm doing with the ceiling, which is probably going to be just what do they call the fabric rolls? What do they call them? The whole roll. If you buy the whole roll,
Mhm.
it has a specific name. My vocabulary is just not working for me tonight. Has a specific name. Chad will correct me. So I'll
Yeah.
get a couple of those and just cover the entire ceiling and then cut the holes for the speakers. And I think I'll be good. It's probably going to be better doing that anyway. Should have done that to begin with, but whatever. Live and learn. That's enough about me. How's
A
everybody else
bolt.
doing? Bolt. Yes.
I had to Google
Thank
it.
you,
I was like,
Chris.
I know this word, but I couldn't think of it.
Bolt.
What's it called? Bolt?
A
Yeah,
bolt of
back-
fabric.
Mhm.
Back in the day, we were so poor that my mom would go to Walmart and buy a bolt of fabric and make all my clothes for school. It was the most embarrassing thing ever, dude.
When I met Jessica, that her mom made her dresses, and dude, she was hot too, man. I loved it. They were cute.
Did something right, I guess.
Yeah, dude, caught my attention. I'm like, I don't need no fancy name brand on that girl. Cool, man. You guys doing well?
Well, I didn't
Yeah.
die, so I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. Kept my grandson all day after church, and that's a workout in itself. But me and Jessica, we take turns. It's like, all right, you get him for a while. No, you get him for a while. He'll run you ragged, man. He's at a point where he's just all over the place. He's what, 14 months?
He's at that point where he's all over the place, but you have to keep an eye on him.
Dude, literally, I was in the kitchen. I forgot what I was doing, but I turned my back and I went, where'd Roman go? Walk around the corner. He had went out to my laundry room and opened up the door, and he was ready to go out in the garage. Like legit. Because he knows his stroller's out there, and we go for walks around the neighborhood. Yeah, man, he's a handful.
Seems like you had a good weekend, Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we've just had a busy weekend. It's been loaded with church stuff and family stuff, and went over to a friend's house today after church and spent the afternoon with them and their family. Had a meal together, played a game together. It was nice. Just got back right before the podcast started.
Nice. I forgot I took photos of the last prom in our family. So my
Bittersweet.
What's that?
Bittersweet.
Yeah, more sweet than bitter. We're okay seeing our kids grow up.
Mm-hmm.
We really are. It's been cool watching them in every aspect of their life, every season of their life has just been cool. But yeah, man, that was the last one. So I was Mr. Photographer, and everybody's asking me like, what are we going to do next year? Like, can we hire you? I'm like, nope, I'm done. I am done with photography. Same thing, cheer. They're like, what are we going to do without your awesome pictures, man?
Bye now.
Yeah. Like, find another dad, find another cheer dad, man. So yeah. Yeah, appreciate it. Siphonics. So yeah, she looked gorgeous. She had a bunch of friends. I think they had like 14 in their group. They went out to dinner. Her boyfriend, she'd been dating him for probably 2 years now, and he does travel ball for baseball, so he actually wasn't able to go. So there was a bunch of girls together, and then some of them had dates, but they had a good time. Super cool.
Rusty, what about you?
Well, I worked on renewing my weekly sunburn. I just freshen it up every week.
Commitment.
Awesome.
Yeah. This weekend, and I had a crazy week at work. Just a lot going on with the company, and so it's good, but it's just been real busy. And then this weekend, spent some time in the garage organizing, cleaning, getting toolbox drawers set up. So that's my therapy. That's my rock garden. Just organizing my stuff. It's great.
I did the tool organization a week or two ago. I changed out all my toolboxes and had to do something.
What'd you go with?
The DeWalt Tough system is what I ended up going with, because I had to come up with a way to transport tools, but also have them safe in the garage when I wasn't using them. And that just seemed like the best solution. And forced me to go through a lot of stuff because I had a lot of duplicates.
Mhm.
Because I inherited all my dad's tools. I had my own tools. My dad was a professional trim carpenter, so it was just all kinds of stuff. And I've bought things and done things, and then if you're not organized, you end up buying things that you don't think you have, and now you have 4 of them, and it's, so
Yeah.
cleaned all that out,
Yeah,
got some
2
extra.
of them if you bought something you didn't know you had, unless you've done it 4 times.
I've done it multiple times.
Yeah.
There was nothing to read into there, Jonathan. It was absolutely the truth about doing it multiple times.
Have you guys priced? I did my lawnmower maintenance on Saturday, getting it ready for the season, and I had needed a new lawnmower battery. There was a time, and it wasn't that long ago, where you could buy a car battery for $70, and now a lawnmower battery costs $70. I was like, "What? This has got to be like super high." So I looked around online. Nope, that's what they cost now.
Man,
Car battery's like 150 now. I'm like,
Like, what
Since
happened
when?
here? When did this change? Last time I bought a
Yeah.
battery, it was like 35 for my lawnmower.
we drove by some apartments that were being built right after we left from prom, taking photos before they left to go to prom and dinner. And I saw this new complex, and I'm just curious. I pulled it up on the, online, and it was a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath, like 1,200, maybe 1,300 square feet. And I think it was like $2,400 a month rent.
That's crazy. That's
Holy
crazy.
Wow. Yeah, it's wild, man. We're in a different place right now, for sure. So, well, cool, man. Well, let me say hi to some folks in the chat super quick. I'll hit one super chat, and then we'll jump right into tonight's question. Tonight's question, starting off, we're going to do 2 tonight. If you're just joining us, first question is going to be, is home theater dying? Have some fun with that. Then we got another fun one as well. And then afterward, if you've got questions, drop those in the chat, and we'll answer many as we can for a little while. Let me go here super quick. Anthony, appreciate the $10 super chat. He said, what's the story or differences with this new Alpha Panamorph lens? And should you sell me one? You know anything about that? I don't follow the Panamorphs too much.
I don't remember what there was a specific use case for this lens, and I remember seeing it, and then I didn't pay too much attention to it. Hold on, let me see if I can get you some more info. You can go ahead to other people while I freshen up the details here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's the only one, so we'll end up going into the topic unless you're able to pull that up. Give you a second. I'll tell you what. While you're doing that, I'll hit some of these real quick. This is just on the some of you guys mentioned this little guy. I don't know if you
A little
can
lower.
see it. I'm trying
Down.
to get the model number.
Oh,
Anyway, it's the Sofa Baton X1S. So the latest one that just came out not too long ago. And so some of y'all were asking in the chat about that. Let me see. Here we go. Has there been any new prospects? So that's one of them. Chris says there's a newer version, which is that one. And then Tyler says he just got the Sofa Baton. So far, so good. It's good to hear. Wrath says sorry, Wrath. That's a different one. Tarhoya, he just got it as well. He says, had a couple quirks with the commands, but relearning the command from the original remote was really easy to do and repair that. So that's good to hear. Tyler says a couple minor hiccups, but I think it was more me than remote. Never had the harmony, but this seems perfect for what I need, and the price was right too. So yeah, so this is, I think, what, $180, something like that, US dollars. I don't know what that is in Canada where Tyler's at. So I'll be checking it out. It's still no touchscreen. The first one that I reviewed a couple years ago was pretty quirky, had a lot of bugs, and I was just really upfront with them this time. And I've never done this with a company, but I figured I didn't want to have a repeat. So I told them, I said, look, before you even send this to me, make sure it works. Like, I don't want to be a beta tester. I don't want to be working through a ton of bugs. And I said, if you send it to me and it's just super buggy, I'm not even going to bother filming it, because it's a waste of my time. I may tell my audience, but I'm not going to make a whole video on, hey, this didn't work. And man, I tried this and I got this error. And So, but the feedback from what I'm seeing from some people that have it, for the most part, it seems pretty stable. So maybe some little hiccups. So yeah, so I'll be doing that review maybe even this week. So we'll see.
My Ava remote shipped.
Okay.
So I'm
Cool.
excited to see those. They should be
Yeah.
arriving any day.
Yeah.
Probably while I'm at Expona.
Yeah, I had a chance. I think I saw their booth at Cedia. What was it? Tech Summit? They were there, I believe. Ava?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. So on the question about the Alpha Lens, the Alpha Lens is supposedly, and I've never seen one, they're brand new, a new lens that does not, I'm trying to think about how I want to phrase this, that has far less barrel distortion from the light path manipulation. Because typically with an anamorphic lens, right, you're manipulating the light path, you're creating or maneuvering the light to where it would normally go above the screen, it's now on the screen. So you're going to see levels of distortion, or you have historically when you're doing that. The claim with the Alpha Lens, though, is that it doesn't have any perceivable barrel distortion. They say that technically, and this is reading from the document that I was sent, less than 1% distortion even at low throw ratios. So that's what I'm reading from the marketing dealer newsletter. Now, I've never seen one, so I can't say that objectively. If that's true, I think that's a big deal. So, Sean, if you're watching, Sean's the guy behind Panamorph. Shed some light.
So
if you're not watching, I'll come ask you.
Anthony actually bought the Sony. Let me see. Give me a second.
7,000.
Yeah, it hadn't come through yet. There it is. I bought the M-Wave Sony 7000 ES. Perfect for me because my Mad VR doesn't come with geo correction.
So he must have an Pro Mad VR. The Alpha would be good. I mean, you're looking at 20 to 30% more light on screen if you're using an anamorphic screen or a CinemaScope screen. That's huge benefits. You don't have to deal with lens shifting at all. Not that you did with Mad VR anyway, but now you're getting all of your light path, all of your resolution onto the screen. So that's big.
Don't they have to still throw? Is it on a sled still and you throw it over there? No? How does it work that way then?
No sled. So at least with Mad VR, you're able to, and with the modes in the projector, it's able to compensate for that using stretch factors and some other stuff to make it look like 16:9 on screen when it's 16:9 content. So you would still have black bars left and right.
So I know with the JVC, there's a
there's anamorphic lens settings
option in there, or not panamorph, but an anamorphic option. You
and then the Sonys have stretch values, like vertical stretch and stuff that you can utilize, and then it allows you to see 16:9 natively and 235, 240 and stuff natively. Now I haven't seen a sled in a long time.
Yeah.
So why don't manufacturers from projectors just build those in as an option? Like, why can't you buy a JVC with that as the lens, or an Epson with that as the lens?
I don't know.
I guess because it's just a third-party company that's making those.
Well, I think it's also a target market thing. I mean, 16:9 has been the primary screen size for a long time. And
but
I know you guys may think it's not, but we exist in a bubble. And if you go talk to a lot of people that actually buy the projectors that are not on AVS forums and are not enthusiasts, they are buying typically 16:9 screens.
There's a lot of enthusiasts that still
there
prefer
are
16:9 too.
I see them a lot.
Best of both worlds. They want the height and the width.
I see them a lot. A lot. Now, whether that's how encompassing that is, to Jonathan's point, I don't know. I mean, I don't have the data or anything. It's just, I think my opinion is that's why they do it. Jonathan thinks they need to change.
I think you should have the option. I don't know why they wouldn't, because they build the lenses. Like JVC builds their own lenses, right? think I've heard that over the years.
Well, I think even like in chat, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I think this is how it works. Like the Barco CinemaScope lenses or panels are still, they're like custom made 16:9 panels that are doing some funkery, that they're not using everything for the panel that they could. So it also may be a panel thing, right? With the dies and how the panels are being made, and TVs are most of them are still 16:9, so maybe it's just how the technology is being done. I don't know. Jonathan brings up a good point.
Last year I was talking to the JVC rep at M-Wave, and he said that I don't know if it was all of them or if it was only the NZ9, but you can send it to them and they can do a lens swap at their facility, and it's a enormous amount of money. He wouldn't even tell me how much it was. Yeah.
I've never heard this.
Because I was asking, is it possible to put a wider throw, or I guess shorter throw? He said it is. It's just extremely expensive. But we were getting into beyond ridiculous numbers. Sound like the cost of another NZ9.
It makes sense that JVC would be able to do that, because JVC, their primary market is not the enthusiast for projectors. It's sim.
Yeah,
right?
they do like flight simulation,
commercial flight sim,
and
it's big time. So one reason, from what I understand about why the JVCs weigh so much more than all the other projectors, is because they're taking a lot of overbuiltness from the commercial side and just pushing it into residential. And they're not
probably more cost effective
rebuilding, they're retrofitting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense.
So that makes sense to the lens mod, because I'm sure they do that on the commercial side. That's cool, though. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It may have only been for the NZ9. But
still cool.
Yeah.
All right. You ready to have some fun? Not that we're not having fun already.
I'm all fired up for these
Let's do it, man.
things
we're
talking about.
All right. So here's the first topic tonight. We're going to have two of them. So I came across a article on the AVS forum, and I'll pop it up here in a second. And it basically had the premise of like, they feel that home theater is dying. And so I'm just going to pull it up here, and then we'll read it, and then we'll have a discussion. Let me flip over here so I can actually see it. So this is from Art Sonborn. Art, I think, if I remember correctly, wasn't he one of the first to have the Christie Eclipse in his home?
Definitely one of the more public. I don't know if the first, but like probably one of the first names on the forums to announce it and show that he took off the wall of his house to put it in and everything.
Yeah. So
you're not committed to home theater unless you're doing that.
Yeah. So I mentioned that because, I mean, just to give some perspective. So Art is a true enthusiast. He loves the hobby. He's got a killer home theater, but this is his thoughts. He says, of course, my perspective. So the title is, let me scroll up. Home theater hobby dying. He says, of course, my perspective is biased for several reasons. I've been in the hobby since the late 1970s with the Kloss Nova Beam model 1, and in earnest with my first room in 1997. Sometimes we're too close to something to look from the outside, but a few things to me at least point to the hobby is on the skids. Of course, looking at the activity here, talking about the AVS forum, is one indicator. There used to be way more posts on various subjects and new threads frequently popping up. It seems like there are fewer new products in the hobby, less than in times past. But again, this may be my own take, but there's this showing CEDIA attendance hovering at circa 30% of that one. Basically, like it's 30% lower than what it was 20 years ago, I think is what he's trying to say. So interesting conversation. Is home theater dying? So chat, let us know in the comments. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see a decline in home theater? Do you see an incline? Is it kind of stale? Is it stagnant? Love to hear your thoughts. And let's dive into it, fellas.
I had to get rid of the banner because it was hiding Rusty's face.
No,
I could see Rusty.
Yeah,
like, hello.
Sorry about that.
I'm
Now
looking
now
over the
yeah.
banner.
You
I
see
can
his
barely
name.
see you.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Hey, so what's the definition of home theater hobby?
I guess just home theater in general. So to me, I don't necessarily deem only a dedicated theater room as home theater. On my channel, I've always been an advocate of building a home theater, whatever space you've got, whether it's a bedroom, whether it's a um, your garage, whether it's a living room setup, whatever that looks like. To me, if you've got surround sound, we're just going to use a real generic term, whether that's a 5.1, 7.1, with Atmos, without Atmos, I still consider that home theater. That's the hobby. And that's really, I think, where he was going with that. The hobby and as a whole, are people moving away from that and going to just, watching movies on their phone or watching it on a tablet, or is their TV just good enough? Those types of things. So that's kind of and there's, oh my goodness, how many pages that thread? And this
There's
was
23
posted
pages.
on,
Just a week ago or so.
6 days.
oh, I was looking at, I'm like June 17th, but that's when he joined. Yeah, this was posted 6 days ago. So, and it's already got 23 pages. So apparently it's a hot topic. People are talking about it. So what are your thoughts on that? Is home theater dying?
So we're saying home theater needs to have surround sound. So minimum of 5.1
I think
type
so.
system to call it a
Yeah.
home theater.
I mean, would y'all what are your thoughts even on that? I mean, is
Well,
that
let's
kinda
just say
accurate?
dedicated speakers, or do we include sound bars?
I mean, I'm even okay with that. I'm not as concerned with the semantics of it. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. Like in my living room, I have 2 speakers and a subwoofer. Is that a home theater? I
Sure.
mean, it's a whole lot better than my TV. That's for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, if we're talking about that, I think everybody I know owns at least 3 or 4 TVs in their home, maybe more if you start counting.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, without
Let's think
sound
about it
bars.
more in a dedicated way, because everybody's got a TV, and whether you got a soundbar speakers, that's the shallow end of the pool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's limit this to dedicated rooms.
Not you want dedicated rooms alone?
2/3 of my audience don't have a dedicated room.
I don't
I
have a
know, I'm
dedicated
not,
room.
but I don't know that post was directed at 2/3 of your audience. I think it's directed at the dedicated room people, because
I
I
don't know.
think. Do you
Maybe.
think that maybe people are transitioning from dedicated rooms into more of what you say your audience has more of, more media spaces?
So okay, so let me go back to what he says. He says home theater hobby dying, and in his post he talks about things like there's less components.
But as
There
Love to
are
Fly points out, that post was made in the $20,000 plus forum.
Oh, I see. Ultra high end home that okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't see that part.
So I think we
Context.
have to put some
Okay, all right.
context into there of where it was made. And
Yeah.
that may be coloring the post,
Mhm.
but I think maybe that's where we.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because I think that's a different conversation for sure. I don't know. Yeah. So let's
I don't
pick a
think it's
direction.
dying from my perspective. And maybe it's because as you get more presence here, but not necessarily, because I've been on the forums for so many years. I have so many people coming to me on a regular basis asking me, "Hey, I'm building my first home theater. You know, I'm soliciting advice from some different people to get some ideas, that kind of stuff." Like that's coming out of the woodwork, and not only people I don't know on the forums, but people I know like from work or from, they've heard through the grapevine or something that I'm in this hobby space. And they just come to solicit ideas. So more now than ever before. Now, granted, maybe that's part of getting to be better known or something to that degree. But all right, when we were growing up, when you were younger, say 20 years ago, how many people did you know that had home theaters? That number was like nil. That was it, probably, as far as I knew. Yeah.
I know
2 if
anybody.
you
Now I
include
know
my
a
family.
lot of people that have home
Yeah.
theaters, and
True.
more all the time. People that don't really even have this, like 50-year-old guys from work coming over and saying, "Hey, like I think it'd be fun to build a home theater. Give me some advice on that."
Yeah.
So from my perspective, maybe not dedicated rooms, maybe
I think
general
the
purpose space.
hobby, Yeah.
But with an AVR, with Atmos, with 5 speakers or you know,
Mhm.
9 speakers, that kind of stuff seems to be picking up speed, I think.
Yeah. I agree too.
Now, because Jonathan brought this up, I want to imagine what Jonathan looks like at work when people come up to them.
Hang on. Wait. All right, do it again.
Why, yes. How can I help you spend money today? And that's just what I imagine him doing when somebody comes up to him and says, hey,
Oh,
you know
that's
anything about home theater? And he's just like, just ready to go when
funny. What is your budget?
he can bring somebody into the hobby. Now, I don't think Jonathan does that. Jonathan has just this
I'm all about bang
amazing
for buck.
propensity to explain things and allow you to see value. That's
Yeah.
the big thing. And then you start drawing these correlations on your own. It's not Jonathan
Mm.
that does it. I'm my own worst enemy. He just dangles the carrot in front of me. He's like, hey, look at this thing. And then I inevitably am the dog that's perpetually chasing the carrot. So
Yeah.
it is what it
I
is.
like this thought from Lewis. He says, oh, sorry, Lewis, wrong one. It jumped on me. It was, oh man, where did it go? Oh,
Which
here we go.
one?
Sorry, Big Jack.
Ah.
What happens is when y'all post, it pushes it up, and so then I lose track of it. Big Jack says, good performance is getting cheaper and cheaper, so I can see the 20 plus threads going down. So he's saying, you know, you can get a whole lot more for your money, and you don't necessarily have to spend a fortune to get a good sounding home theater. And I agree with that. I think you can definitely get a lot of bang for your buck, like you were saying, Jonathan.
I think it's all in context. So when his comment about Cedia, yes, Cedia attendance is down, but 20 years ago, the internet was nowhere near where it is now. Look at YouTube.
Yeah, for sure.
Look at the abundance of information.
Yeah.
Even on platforms that you don't think would contain a lot of information. And I know a lot of it is not necessarily accurate, but Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I mean, all of these social media platforms that are being utilized to convey information. Cedia is, and I love Cedia, but Cedia is abhorrently expensive for companies to go to. And it's expensive for dealers and other people that are involved in the industry to come to, because you got to travel, you got to stay there, and it's a big to do. So if you can take in that information in another way or another avenue, then yeah, I think a lot of people are going to do that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a different, we're seeing a migration in the way that people are taking in data or information. It used to be a lot of in person, and now it's a lot of time what everybody's doing here through a
You're
screen.
looking it up online from the convenience of your home and your own boxer shorts or whatever.
You didn't have to take it there, but you know,
I'm just keeping it real.
You're trying. You're the Da Vinci. You're just painting the picture.
I'm not wearing
everybody.
shorts right now, so I mean, just kidding. I was like, man, how did this get that weird all of a sudden?
Oh man,
I did not, man.
He's gonna get up to like pick something up and show us his whitey tidies there in the background.
And on the AVS thing, I think AVS is great, but I don't think AVS, and this is, I'm on AVS. I still think it's a great platform, but I think
I have a feeling
there's a lot of people have moved away from it, I think.
Yeah, I've seen a decline in that. Like even me personally, I used to be in there all the time. And part of that, I was building my theater. And so I was getting a lot of advice and asking a lot of questions. And I was documenting my journey and what I was doing, the decisions I was making, like you are with your room. But I mean, I rarely go there. Jonathan's still there quite a bit. Rusty, are you there a lot? Or
I mean, I'm on there.
On AVS forum? Rarely. It's whenever I've got a problem I'm troubleshooting, like just from I honestly, I don't know how people find the time to stay on it all the time. Like it can consume a lot of free time, and I don't have it. But
well, in all fairness, that can be said of anything. That can be said of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any social platform, watching YouTube videos. What I'm seeing, kind of like what Ryan was saying, is that there are just so many other avenues that people are getting information from, and communities that they're finding themselves a part of, whether it's a Facebook group, a Discord server, a lot of Discord servers out there. We've got one for M-Wave. And It's really active. So I just think there's a lot of different people are being more divided, where back in the day, the forums were the place to go for information.
Well, and
Now
think
there's a lot
about
of other avenues.
think about that forums were a big part of the way people communicated online. And
Correct.
now that has diverged into other platforms. Like you brought up one with Discord. I mean,
Mhm.
forums and IRC, right,
Mhm.
were a big part of how people communicated
Yeah.
on the internet. And that
Mhm.
has IRC is almost totally gone. I mean, I
Mhm.
still have, I'm a weird guy and I still have
Yeah.
some IRC stuff,
Yeah.
especially for network engineering. But
Mhm.
the landscape has changed.
Mhm.
And if you don't adapt to the landscape, you're just going to get left behind.
Yeah.
Isn't IRC pretty darn similar to Discord though in its functionality even? I
Yeah.
mean, like Discord's a prettier version of IRC basically,
Yes.
a newer version.
Yes.
But it's still the similar format. So
Yes.
the format
With different
evolved.
channel, yeah, exactly. But if you ask like most of our generation what IRC is, they're going to look at you like a deer in the headlights. They have no idea.
Mhm.
But you ask a middle-aged man what Discord is, I can almost guarantee you're going to get a pretty good response of, yeah, I know what Discord is. I have Discord.
So is IRC still active? Or people still using it?
I've
Yeah.
never even heard of IRC.
Internet relay chat.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
I
it's
just
still
used
around.
it for like downloading things back in the day.
I
That
mean,
was
I've
mine.
heard of bulletin boards.
IRC is still around for, and you
Jonathan
can get some
remembers
pretty good
those.
information.
Mine's like, what is
Yeah.
that?
What, a bulletin
I'm
board?
with all those things. I'm old school
Yeah.
IT.
I don't know.
BBS forum or BBS.
Yeah.
So I keep up with the Discord pretty well, and I feel maybe because it's possible to keep up with the volume of information, I can kind of keep up with the conversation. AVS forum, I just can't keep up. There's too much.
Well, in all fairness, I was trying to find Art's post, and I'm like scrolling back. I'm looking at most recent posts, and I'm like 4 or 5 pages in, and it's just 5 days of information. Like, so I mean, there's still a lot of people using that, but I think he was saying like we don't see a lot of new threads and new topics. And
Well, and one of the problems with it too is that you can't have in real-time conversation. I mean, you can, but it's difficult to have a real-time conversation with it.
Sure.
So it's just a different way of communicating. Communication has evolved and it's changed in how we communicate through the internet. And I think it's just AVS is not the prime topic anymore. Location. I think Facebook, in all honesty, has taken that over.
Oh man, I hope not.
I think it has.
I'm not on the
What
same
is-
plane as you guys on this thought. Like to me, I like AVS for several reasons. One is that I can go search and find a post that's 20 years old that still
sure.
has relevance today. And good luck doing that on a chat board.
Jonathan, I fully agree. I'm just saying how people are communicating is changing. I'm with you.
And then there's also the attribute of like AVS forum. I can log in and like, hey, I want to spend an hour to cool down for the evening or something, or read while I'm in bed or whatever. I can pick it up and I can put it down. But I use Discord too. I'm on there with you guys. But mercy, you get Discord pings and your phone lights up, and then you're like, it's almost like you're on call. You're a slave to the Discord server, and that's one reason I kind of stepped out of using Discord so much, because it's like that takes over for me. Like Rusty, you said, that takes over. AVS form takes over. If someone's pinging me and I feel like I've got to respond, that takes over for me.
I just leave notifications off unless somebody like direct messages me, because it's too much. But hey, on the other question, is home theater dying? I'm thinking about it. For me, proportional to 20 years ago, he's referencing, I know about the same number of people that have a dedicated home theater or a surround sound as I did back then, aside from the people that I've met through enthusiast groups, right? And I feel like that didn't really, that taints the sample. But I feel like now, though, it's so easy to have a good experience without going deep into the hobby. Like, you can have a TV and a sound bar, and it can be pretty darn good relative to 20 years ago, where, well, it would have been a CRT and
it wasn't that great.
there was no sound bar.
We thought it was good back then.
I guess TV speakers, like the alternatives, there wasn't much to offer. But I mean, even some of the worst stuff is pretty good these days.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like somebody mentioned the barrier to entry now.
It's tough to take that from somebody that literally bought white speaker vans.
Wow.
Speakers out of a van. God.
Hey, I had to get a Youthman deal somehow.
Hey, you got to do it, man.
I'm just kidding. That's a good, interesting thought. Good thought.
Yeah.
Good point.
Cool. Any other thoughts on home theater dying?
Well, what do you think?
Like I said, I think, and again, I'm kind of biased because I live in this world. I live and breathe it every day. Well, and maybe that's not a bias. I mean, I like Jonathan. I get emails, I get DMs, I get Facebook messages, I get text messages all day, every day saying, either asking questions or saying, thank you for your videos. I just got into home theater. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm having so much fun doing it, that type of thing. So I'm seeing more and more and more people expressing interest in the hobby. I mean, my channel itself is home theater. And every single month for the past 6 years, my channel has continued to grow every single month. There's never been a month where it declined ever. So that tells me, and the most I've ever had was 4,000 new people join my channel in a month. That's a lot of people. So, I mean, I didn't know 130,000 people 6 years ago that liked home theater, but I do now. I don't think it was because of me that they got into home theater, but I was just exposed to, man, there's a bunch of people out there. Problem is we just don't know where they're at. Most people feel isolated, and maybe that in itself sometimes can skew our perspective, thinking the home theaters home theater might be dying because we don't know anybody that's into this. I mean, we've talked about that plenty of times, that sometimes this home theater hobby can be lonely because we don't know others in our local area that share that same passion. Except all three of you guys, y'all suck. Because y'all have a great network. I mean, Rusty's had 20 people in his home, and I'm sure Ryan and Jonathan both have had that and exceeded that. I've never had 20 home theater enthusiasts in my home. Most I've had, I think, is 3. And that's because I was trying to multitask. It was a guy, I'm like, or try to kill the 2 birds with one stone. I had one person, they're like, hey, Michael, me and my wife would love to come over and check out your JTRs. Cool. Another guy was like, hey, I really want to see the Mad VR. I'm like, can we schedule that at the same time so I can, don't have to give the same spiel 2 different days. So, but yeah. Yeah, I believe that it's so. All right, so here's another perspective too. We also have to take into account where we're at as an economy too. I mean, we're not in the best position right now. We're not booming. Things are more expensive. Housing market's expensive. Food's expensive. So maybe sales might be down for manufacturers. Maybe less people are going to see it. I don't know.
They are down.
I
can tell you it depends on where you look at that, right? So certain demographics and economic brackets, it is down. Absolutely. But in other parts, it is massively up, right? Because certain segments are not really affected by anything. It doesn't really matter what happens into the economy. Those market segments aren't really affected. In those parts, it is up. And if you go talk to the companies, I think a lot of them will agree that Joe Schmo, your average guy, that market has gone right off a cliff. Yeah. But to the other end, it is up. So
we kept hearing too with COVID that the home theater sales were just like through the roof.
Oh, they exploded.
Yeah,
sure. And so is down relative to
That's a good point.
COVID, or is down relative to before COVID?
And I think with context, it comes in of you got to make sure you back out far enough and look at the graph at enough of a distance, because if you look in close enough, any dip, even if it's minute, looks like a cliff.
That makes sense.
So if you back out far enough and look at it over decades, it's probably going to be pretty flat.
Yeah.
If not increasing. But I'm seeing this in chat, and I agree that I think a lot of the dedicated rooms are transitioning more into media spaces. I think people a lot of people outside of us crazies, the enthusiasts that want to put a dedicated space in, want the home theater experience, but they don't want to sacrifice a room to it. So you're getting more of what
Yeah.
Michael's audience has, which is general media spaces. And I think there is a big uptick in that.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, and like you said, I like this. Jeff says home theater is the best it's ever been. What's dying for me are affordable, good quality cinema experience. He's talking about his local cinema. You know, he goes there, the tickets are overpriced. You know, the experience oftentimes is lackluster. It's too loud or too soft, not enough bass, can't understand the dialogue. Man, there was one time I was watching a movie, I'm trying to remember, but there was something like sparkly right behind the screen. So the whole stinking movie, I couldn't take my eyes off this little sparkly. I don't know what it was, but it was something either on the screen and it was reflecting back. And so
I think it was the screen.
it was terrible, but it was one spot, one specific spot on there. So the whole movie, I don't even remember what I was watching, but I'm like, man, this is so.
Did you know your projector in your theater was an ultra short throw?
On mine, no. But it was crazy, man. But yeah, so there's a lot of aspects to that. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't think home theater as a hobby is dying. There might be a decline in dedicated home theater spaces because, like you said, a lot of people do want to make a multimedia room, a room that is multifunctional. Maybe it's a game room and a theater. Maybe it's it's in a living room environment. So yeah.
So to summarize, we're saying home theater isn't dying. AVS Forum maybe.
No, I don't even. I can't say that even, right? Because isn't AVS Forum's membership at the highest it's ever been? Like there may be other sources, but look at their member count. Their member is 1.5 million members.
Yeah, but people, anybody that signs up,
I've never discontinued my membership there.
True. Okay. So, once you sign up, it never goes down.
You'd have to look at logins.
Yeah. Active users this month versus active users 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
And we're saying that trade show attendance is going down because you can find it all online, or a lot of it.
Well, and honestly, and kind of like Ryan says, I mean, us as content creators, we're covering that news. I mean, we're providing that data for you. I'm interviewing the guys that are making the products and they're giving the announcements at these shows. And so sometimes people are like, I don't need to go. I can pull that information up online and get that.
So MW brings up a good point. And this is something that I think is really important whenever you're researching topics is you need to look at it as per capita.
Okay.
So population is increasing, disposable income is increasing, but home theater doesn't follow Moore's law. So there's for marketing, the value realization is difficult. But how I took that comment is if the population is increasing and the interest was the same level, theoretically, you could derive that we should see more home theaters, theoretically, because there's more people. Shouldn't you?
I don't think disposable income is increasing. I think it's probably decreasing from
Depends
a young
on
person's perspective.
Depends on the market. Depends on the market and the segment and who you're looking at.
Well, I tell my kids all the time that I think they are the first generation. I'm 44 to get perspective there. I think my kids will be the first generation where it won't be as easy for them to have like a father working and a mother caretaking the kids at home. Yeah, like the traditional American family, for what that's worth, I think will be harder for them than it has ever been in previous generations within reasonable history. Because I think there's a lot of things coming. This is a whole different conversation, but we got a lot of automation coming that's going to take away a lot of jobs. You've got inflation stuff that's money printing is we're going to get political here, but there's a lot of risk factors for them not having as easy a life as I did, or my folks did, or their folks did. That are kind of converging on this youngest generation. So to me, there's worldwide competition in their job market. It's not just their local neighborhood or their community now. It's all remote work can take place from all over the world, not just the local city. There's just a lot of factors there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll keep it out of the political context, but mercy, I don't think disposable income's going up in our lifetimes. I think it's going down for people. It will go down. That's my opinion. We'll see.
I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at people that are making way more than we did 20 years ago, for sure. I was broke as a goat, you know?
Well,
Sure.
yeah, but cost of living is also way more,
True.
and they're disproportionately. Cost of living is rising.
Yeah, and
disproportionately.
that may be true too. Maybe income is up, but their expenses are higher.
I mean, and also,
proportionally.
Michael, you ought to also consider that you're like 20 years older than the last, the check-in. So your wages should go up in life. That's the idea.
Right, sure.
But
And I'm
relative
looking
to
at my
that, for young
son.
people,
I'm looking at my son and my daughter. Here's an example.
Mhm.
My son is 24. My daughter is 22.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at their income going, my daughter makes like literally $10,000 less starting out as a new teacher than my wife of 21 years.
Mhm.
I'm going, how's that even possible? That's crazy. That's an
Mhm.
incredible salary for a 20 stinking 2-year-old,
Mhm.
and my son, he's making good money with my sister. He works for her and her husband. And then he's got his TikTok side business. So he's hustling over there. I'm going, we didn't have those opportunities, 20 years ago. I was mowing grass and doing things like that, I was flipping some speakers for $100 here and $100 there, So I don't know. There's more opportunities nowadays for people to succeed. So I don't know. I guess that's
Can I take this thing a
100%.
little bit strange direction just for a brief
dive deep,
moment?
man. Yeah.
All right, here comes the conspiracy theories.
No, none of that.
We'll just need a
Oh,
space
okay,
tonight,
man,
guys.
that's too
We ain't
bad.
even there yet. Go ahead.
Present. Share screen. This is for me.
Let me
Can you guys
remove
see my
this.
screen?
Give me a second, Rusty. I'm gonna get rid of this banner. There you go, brother.
Oh, thank you. I can see
Kinda.
better
let
now.
me make it bigger. I won't be able to see the chat, but now I can see. Dude, this is real time. Check that out.
Yeah, have you guys checked this out? It's really
Never
pretty
heard of this.
wild. So
Just
like, look at this kind of thing. The median income now is $39,000,
Where are you
right?
looking at?
Right where
see
my
it.
mouse is moving. Do you see my mouse moving?
Okay, yeah, down in the middle. All right,
Yep.
gotcha. 39 for
The median income 24 years ago was $8,000 less.
Okay.
Look at the median new home in the year 2000 versus the median new home now.
Wow. Yeah,
Way out of
Look at the
step.
car.
I
Average
see,
new
I
car
see.
is $50,000.
Okay.
Average new car 20 years ago was $22,000. Like, that's not a good direction. We're going the wrong direction.
Y'all were saying the income is not increasing. Income is increasing, absolutely.
Well, look
But
at
not
this.
at the same rate as cost.
The outgo is increasing exponentially.
Yeah.
And while we're here, you want to see some other crazy stuff. I'll back off this. This is not what the show's about, but it's crazy. Look at this savings per family. This is in America on average, $12,000 savings per family.
Right.
Look at the personal debt per citizen. Like, what are we doing here?
But I'm going to play devil's advocate here. There is a lot of variables and factors that are not being considered in this.
I don't know. This thing is
my point is that personal financial decisions and stuff are not being considered, and there's a lot of direction and education and things and choices that people are making that are directly influencing their outcomes and buying choices that you're just seeing the result of everything. You're not seeing the why.
Well, and that's kind of what we're just looking at, though, right? Just the result.
Yes.
I mean, how can you look at this? And I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer here, and this isn't the point of the podcast, so I don't want to get lost on this.
It's all good.
But how can you look at this and be like optimist when we have like debt?
I'm not saying I'm an optimist. My point is, especially on the cars and stuff, is I think a lot of that is personal choice. There are many cars that you can choose from that are not $50,000. I mean, look at what other countries and things are doing with cheap cars. There was who was it? Toyota that just launched an $11,000 pickup truck.
Nice.
Nice.
I think a lot of this is based on personal choice and personal decision and keeping up with the Joneses. And that's where a lot of your debt comes from. I'm not saying the housing is that way, and I don't want to get into a lot of this because that's not what this stream should be.
Sure.
All I'm saying here is that it goes back to what I was saying about the graph. It's very easy to look in on something. And I know I'm not saying we're looking in here, but if you don't consider all of the variables and why things are happening, you can find yourself getting a really a view that looks like this
Mhm.
instead of that looks like this, and not considering, well, how did we get here and why and what is causing these things to happen? So I don't know. I'm
Mhm.
simply saying, why?
I feel like a couple things will happen. But I mean, we're so off topic here. I'll just shut up after this. But
This
if
train
we,
has
That's the
derailed.
third time you said that, by the
Yeah.
way.
yeah, I keep saying it. But check this out: debt per citizen 100,000, debt per taxpayer 266,000. So that means like if my wife and I were to come clean on national debt thing, like look at that amount of money, like just the two of us that we would owe. How many people do you know that have that kind of money to cough up? And then, here's college tuition between 2000 and now. And like the things are trending harder. That's all. I think things are trending harder for our young generation. And I hope I'm wrong on that, but that's what I see. And then you add the complications. we talked about. AI is going to be in the next 10 to 15 years taking over a lot of like truck driver jobs, taxi driver jobs, automation. They're talking about 30% of those jobs will be just gone in 15 years, just like not gone. And then they'll say, well, you have to have people to do technicians to fix that kind of stuff. But the reality is it's not a 1-for-1. So how do you manage that?
Yeah.
All right.
And the last thing I'll say, because Brian brings up something about personal choice, I'm not saying that's what everything is. I'm simply using that as something
That's
to
another
consider.
perspective. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a lot of factors that go into this. It's just personal choice is one of them.
Yeah. It's not like what Mally says. He says, I'm making the most I've ever made in my entire life. No student loans, but I've spent $40,000 on major home renovations, finally getting to purchase my home theater gear this year. So, we're seeing both. I mean, there's definitely people that are worse off shape now than they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So we're seeing both sides, but yeah, I mean, I like the perspective. I don't think there's anything wrong with looking at, something like, the big picture and seeing where we're at.
And Jonathan, you did good. We got some active chat now.
Yeah, dude, they're like,
thank you for backing up my conjecture though, because
that's
my boy
what I was
Jonathan
trying is back. He needs his own podcast on finance. I love it, man.
But you don't have to be an economist to like just look around, and expenses are outpacing
There's no
income.
doubt. It's tough right now for all of us. So what's the answer? Buy some new gear. That's what Scott says. All right. Ready to transition to the next one?
Yes.
All right, Ryan, you want to lead it?
No.
Well, this is great because we've built up a lot of like momentum here. So now,
we got 243 people in the chat right now. So this is going to be a fun conversation.
You should open it, and then I will
pour fuel on it.
Provide. Yes.
Can I share a screenshot?
I mean, you can. Yeah.
Okay. So all right, let's look here.
Is this from YouTube or Facebook?
Yeah, YouTube.
I already have them. I'll show you.
Okay.
So
so the short of it is I happen to see
this one.
Oh gosh, I gotta make my screen bigger to be able to see. Yes. Okay. So I follow Aaron and just saw some posts on Facebook and then on.
I'm gonna get
YouTube,
South Park off so
like,
we don't get demonetized.
Oh, I see. Anyway, he made a post 3 days ago. He says, any lawyers in this group, specifically someone who can help me with a threat of litigation based on one of my reviews? If so, please message me directly. I know your time is valuable, but if you can help give me some guidance, it'd be appreciated. Comments disabled for obvious reasons. I don't want to bring on any more attention that could make my life worse. Hope you understand. So I'm reading this and it definitely concerns me that a brand.
To put it in context, we didn't know it was, we still don't know if there's any relation between the two. I should clarify that.
But if there's, all right, companies send me product all the time. Sofa baton.
Well, hold on. Let's back up because we don't know what this post actually means. There's no
it's vague
context. It is, but there's no context in the post of what that's about.
True.
Then he posted this.
What?
Is this the same day? I think this was the same day.
Okay.
And he says, the designer at Tekton has raised concerns about my test methods of the Tekton Troubadour speaker,
Yeah.
particularly me not having the feet installed, which seal the through holes at the bottom of the speaker. The feet were not provided by the gentleman who loaned the speakers, and I was unaware of these feet until Tekton informed me of this. In order to practice due diligence in my reviews and transparency with you all, I wanted to let you know that I am going to take my... Where is that? Take my
Review down
while I investigate Tekton's concerns and retest the speaker with the feet installed. I will update my review as necessary. I hope I have your understanding. So, just to make sure that everybody is clear, there is no direct reference between these two. So, I just want to make sure that that is clear for now.
Yeah, so a lot of you guys, I mean, you're mentioning in the chat, I mean, you've seen this, you were aware of it, you were shocked by his post. You know, he's pretty sure I know who it is. I've done this to other reviewers in the past. So a lot of you have seen this post, and so, you know, it brings an interesting conversation, you know, to that. And so I thought we'd just have a conversation regarding that and get you guys in the chat your thoughts on it as well.
So let me show a couple things here.
Okay.
And I think this is important. I did some research after seeing this. There are, and I've never seen this before. Okay. And I've installed feet on many number of speakers. The Tekton Troubadour actually have holes in the bottom of the speaker where the feet go. There's not like a cap or anything. You can literally stick something all the way through. Okay. I did my research, and you absolutely can. So there are really holes. It's not like he's just saying there's feet or whatever. Now, what not having the feet on there would do, I don't know. And this is where I'd like to point out something, because he is specifically mentioning the feet. Tekton, Eric behind Tekton is. But if you go look at this YouTube video and we fast forward, I think it's like 5:37 right here. There's no feet on these speakers.
Interesting.
It's
And
the
you
ones
know
that are
what?
in the back.
You know
That's-
what? This review is on Tekton's website.
Interesting.
And there's no feet on those speakers in the back. So why are we saying that the feet need to be on for a review that may or may not have things said about the speaker? But if it's all positive, then there doesn't need to be any feet.
Interesting.
So he's saying that the speaker supposedly was measured incorrectly.
Like it would measure better
But
if he would
Steve
have
doesn't have any feet on his speaker, and somehow it doesn't measure incorrectly.
It does the stand. It's like screw holes or something screwing it onto the stand?
I think the feet are on the corners, like literally right here. Because if you go look at let me pull up Tekton's website here. Let me get another tab. I think
I don't
Tekton
think you'll see it on
tools.
their website though.
No. Tekton speakers. There was another review.
Yeah, and that's true. He says Steve doesn't measure. So Steve is
I know he doesn't measure, but my
subjective.
point was that
it's okay for somebody to give a subjective review.
Right.
But
without
if you
the feet
measure it,
and say something positive, but if you say something negative, it then becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Right. That's my point. Now I need to find Tekton video reviews.
Yeah.
There's a part of the website. Here we go. So if you look, where are they? I think it's these. So if we look right here and we go right there, so you can see they're in the corners. So they're not being covered by that.
Okay.
They're out here.
Man,
if
look at
that's
you,
really where they
detective.
are, right? So you can see on the bottom of the speaker
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
they're out here on the corners because there's no other holes in the bottom of this speaker. So this should be open unless there's a plug that nobody knows about. So there's that,
And
which
how much
I find really interesting.
I just wonder, like, how much difference would that make in measuring how a speaker performs, though?
Well, Jonathan, you commented about this not too
Yeah,
long
like a
ago.
private text message, but I don't think it's going to change it very much at all.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about 4 1/4-inch holes. It might change are they sealed or ported? I guess they're sealed. Yeah.
Mhm.
Unless you play it to extreme volumes, it's just going to act like more airspace. It's not
Mhm.
going to, like, it might change the bass frequency response a little bit. Like
Mhm.
I would guess that it might change it like a dB on a frequency response sweep.
Mhm.
And
I'm
you
trying
might
to find the
you
back.
might hear it if it's totally sealed and you turn it up to very loud volumes. You might hear it, maybe like a chuffing sound, like a whistling sound or something. But we're
Mhm.
talking like small little holes. And frankly, I'll be surprised. He's going to remeasure them. Good on Aaron for remeasuring them. I'd be
Yeah.
surprised if it changes much at all.
Yeah.
So
And
there's
that brings a question, like, what happens if it doesn't change? You know? And if he posts his review saying, "Hey, I put the feed on, I measured, okay, here's the difference." Maybe it's insignificant.
Mhm.
Then what happens? You know, is a brand going to go and still continue?
Mhm.
You know,
Well,
it just seems odd.
on that note, there's this.
Let me make it bigger here.
And Eric is the guy behind Tekton.
Okay, so this is over on Amir's website.
And this was posted Wednesday.
Wow. All right, so this is public here.
And this was posted about where did that post go? There it is. This was posted about the Tekton M-Lore. So Amir did a review on the M-Lore.
Okay, so that's one of his models.
And Eric said it was measured incorrectly and it's probably going to come to litigation.
So everybody needs to hang tight. So this was on when?
I think this was Wednesday.
Okay, Wednesday at 3. Interesting.
So for a different speaker, he's threatening litigation.
Well, maybe this is about the Troglodyte.
You said it wrong. You're getting sued.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Defamation right there.
Troubadour. Excuse me. Jesus.
I kind of feel like maybe I should turn my camera
Yeah,
off right
let's
now.
get off your rusty.
Like, I put your ski mask on.
Yeah, I do turn on my voice filter.
No, because he was saying Amir measured. If you scroll up, 2 more right there. Stop. Scroll up a little bit forward.
No, it's right here. So
Amir
you should
measured.
stay tuned. Amir measured them wrong. Yeah. So he's posting about Amir.
Something that Amir did. If Amir botched up the measurements, then state exactly what he botched up. And most importantly, explain that Ryan keeps scrolling when I was reading.
Where were you reading?
Right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the top one. He says, so basically he's challenging him. He's like, look, Mr. Alexander, Amir follows the CEA 2034 standards in measuring speakers. His test and measurement methods and equipment are openly stated. If Amir, quote, botched up the measurements, then state exactly what he botched up. And most importantly, explain the scientific reasons of what the measurement methods ought to be when measuring your speakers and why the CEA 2034 standards doesn't apply to your speakers. Everyone here is eagerly awaiting for your reasoned and scientific engagement instead of a temper tantrum because your speakers measure poorly based on industry standards with soda measurement equipment. And then Eric responds, the facts are that he measured the speaker incorrectly. It will probably come to litigation. So everyone needs to hang tight and buckle the seatbelt. That's Michael's paraphrase. Interesting. But man, this is just so wild.
So Eric should probably provide his own data that says this is what I measured and this is where it should be, and then they can compare and figure out what went wrong. And without that data from Eric, then it's just blowing hot air, isn't it? I mean, really?
But I guess the bigger question is why don't they just come together and go, hey, I saw your review. Thank you so much for reviewing it. Like you said, I've got different measurements. Can we talk about your procedure? Can we, and I don't know who has, what him and Amir have, what their conversation has looked like, But man, it's just wild though.
Well, so he's saying Just Jones correctly discerned how the speaker should be used. So
I never saw the original review. I tried to pull it up on Aaron's audio corner, but it's been taken down.
he did take it down. But
I would
I'm
like
saying
to have seen it to see what was all the.
so he says, agreed, just move on to something that is personally exciting to you. In audio, Just Jones correctly discerned how the speaker should be used. So is Eric saying that he doesn't know any audiophile that would buy a $750 speaker for serious listening? Did he just like poo-poo on a big part of the audience or the buyer's pool?
I don't know.
Like, is he effectively saying that you have to buy really expensive stuff to get a good experience out of something, and that if it's not expensive, you should just expect crap?
Wait, that's Just Jones that said that about $750 speaker, not Eric, right?
Yeah, but he's effectively saying Just Jones correctly discerned how this speaker should be used. Unless I'm not getting the full context out of this, which maybe I'm misunderstanding.
I need to read it more in the full context of what's being said here.
Yeah, because he says that, and then the Just Jones, the last reply is that he doesn't get what the overblown reaction is. This is admittedly an inexpensive speaker. So how I took that is that maybe it's sarcasm, because Just Jones is the one that's saying Clipple.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Sorry for covering up your face for a second, Rusty. That Hurt says Aaron should just send the speaker back and bail. This was sent to him by a consumer, like one of his, like a lot of times what happens is Aaron will get one of his members that says, hey, I've got a pair of blank. I've got some per listen, some of the new per listen. I had one of my patrons even reach out and say, hey, if Aaron wants to measure my per listen, I'm building my theater room. It's going to be a little while. He's welcome to. I'll send them to him. So that's kind of the, what happened here. So it wasn't from the manufacturer.
I feel like I remember one time that Aaron said, do y'all hear an echo?
No.
Okay. If there was a bad review or bad data, he would reach out to the manufacturer before he actually posted the review.
Yeah.
So in that thread, Aaron did mention that he reached out. It's in that thread that he reached out to Tekton and asked if there was anything he needed to know and didn't hear back. And I mean, in Tekton's defense or in Eric's defense, he probably doesn't see all those emails necessarily respond to everything. I get that type thing, but Aaron did try to pre-initiate, according to what he said in the thread. He tried to reach out and make sure there was, the communication was made before he did the review. Anything I need to know.
I don't think it's Aaron's responsibility necessarily to do that either. I mean, I don't think any reviewer should have to do that. If if the product is publicly available. I mean, he's measuring on a Clipple. I mean, it's not like he's doing a lot of this just willy-nilly. I mean, the Clipple is well regarded in the industry as the de facto measurement device. And I mean, take it up with Clipple, I guess. You're muted, Rusty.
Well, also in that thread, when I was reading through it or glancing through it, was talking about how the review wasn't even that bad that Aaron did. So that's the part that's a little confusing. Again, I wish I could see the review, but
yeah,
I don't think he was like barnstorming it or anything.
I was just going to say, it's possible that the measurement setup, maybe there was a problem,
but in two different speakers using two different Clipples, I would know
because of mirror. Are you saying two clip? But was it the same speaker? Or
no, different speaker. Yeah,
the M-Lore, which is totally different.
He's questioning two. Let's just call it like it is. I mean, two professionals in the industry that have professional equipment that have been doing this for literally decades. I mean, I know. Where is it at? Yeah, so that Herd says Aaron isn't a spring chicken. He knows exactly how to run his hardware measurements, and he does. He knows his stuff.
Well, and the response that Eric gives to people calling him out for measurements is, I've been blessed with 18 Product of the Year awards. I mean, a lot of these awards, guys,
So
there's
if
a
he
lot of
doesn't,
participation awards.
so if he doesn't get an award from a reviewer, is that acceptable to?
Well, my point with this is that he's gloating about 18 awards instead of providing data. Like it was specifically requested.
People are
Hey,
asking, yeah, they're like,
provide
hey,
your
what
data
did you-
so that we can settle this and be done. But instead, he just says, well, I've been doing this for 44 years. Here's the data, or here's the awards. You know, trust me, you know, we're good.
Yeah.
I don't
Why
buy
they
that.
post their own data?
I don't buy that at all, which is a big reason why I think a lot of us get behind companies and why we push companies that objectify
Show data,
their
sure.
equipment.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Ryan. I didn't mean to
Nope.
cut you off.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious where this like leaves reviewers. Like, is this something you've ever heard of before, Michael? Is this something that you've ever encountered or been nervous of in your own?
I've never personally been nervous of this, but probably when I started 6 years ago, a very similar situation happened. I think it was with Ron from New Record Day and maybe what's the other guy who modifies the crossovers and stuff?
Matt? Not from that place though.
It was Ron's buddy.
I don't know.
Oh my goodness, I can't even think of his name. Anyway, you guys may know him in the chat. But anyway, this very similar thing happened like 5 or 6 years ago. So, and it was like, hey, you measure my speakers wrong. And if I remember, Danny Ritchie, thank you. So yeah, so I'm seeing a pattern, to be honest with you. It's like it happened before. We just saw 2 of them this past week within 7 days, probably. It's like, I just don't understand that.
Yeah. I would say it looks like with this guy, it looks like he just doesn't like bad reviews, and he threatens legal action anytime something unfavorable comes out.
So they can pull in hopes that maybe they pull the review, I'm assuming.
Yeah, intimidating them to pull down reviews and bad publicity. And I don't know, because we've only, we've heard part of the other side of the story here. So I don't know. I didn't see the original measurements. I don't know if the test was done right. I would say, just from the perspective of a person who has a company that makes products, that not just like the legal responsibility, but just the kind of the moral responsibility. If you're going to put review information out there, just making sure that it is factual, because if you put bad information out, everybody sees the bad stuff, but most of the time only about 10% see the retraction. So I would hope that if I was making a product and Michael was reviewing it, he'd say, hey, I've noticed some anomalies before I publish this. Do you want to take a look at it and see if you can either help me troubleshoot it or reproduce it or whatever it is, and give me a chance? Because people that are going out on a limb to build companies, and again, I'm not defending this guy. He looks like, I don't know him, but he doesn't look like a pleasant person from just the forum post that you've shown. But I would hope that I would get the opportunity to defend maybe it was a setup issue, maybe it's a customer issue. And if it's not, then I deserve the bad review. But people risk their life savings, to create these products. So you got to be careful with what you say and what kind of bad news you spread around, and especially if it's unverified. So
all right, so brings me to the question. I don't do a lot of measurements. I don't have $100,000 clipple machine. So I'm going to get a pair of speakers in. I'm going to share with you what I feel, what I enjoy, what I like and dislike about it. I'm going to review this Sofa Baton remote. And if it's buggy, guess what? I feel that I have to let my audience know that, hey, when I was setting this thing up, I got an error message, or man, this thing was flawless and it was just smooth, and whatever that is. And so should I be concerned as a reviewer, a content creator, making a video that, I guess I'm just thinking, man, as a business owner myself, if there's something wrong, you go to that person. You don't just throw out, "Hey, we're heading to court if you don't shape up." And I just, man, I
Well,
don't
and I feel
understand.
as a YouTube reviewer, you have a responsibility to call out things that are bad, and especially if you're speaking
Right.
to your own experience,
Yeah.
and that's like you can't question it. Like this was your experience.
Yeah.
You should point that out because you're looking out for the consumers.
Mm.
But if you're slandering, and I always get these confused, libel and slander,
Sure.
which is which, but if you're just saying things that aren't true, then that's just not right.
Yeah. So I like what Reed says. It says the best response would have been, "Hey, Aaron, your measurements are way off," or Amir, "Hey, we're not vibing. We're not getting the same things. How'd you run your setup? Let's have that conversation. Let's have a dialogue. Let's figure out what went wrong." And I promise you, probably both of these guys, I know Aaron at least. I don't know Amir personally, but I know Aaron. If somebody pointed out a flaw in something that he did, just like in this case, he's like, "Hey, I'll be happy to review it again. I'll be happy to rerun it." It's not like he's hiding anything. He doesn't have malicious intent. His
So you're
desires-
effectively saying that if any reviewer reviews something objectively and it's negative, they shouldn't publish it. They should approach the vendor first.
Who?
I'm saying,
Rusty.
Yeah, I would say if it's something where, especially if it's a new product, I would say you should at least reach out for support before you publish a bad review.
Yeah.
And question, like, okay, I buy a Mad VR, I plug it into the wrong port on the back. There's only 2 ports. I plug it in the wrong one. It doesn't do anything because one of them is a pass-through port. I publish a view. This thing's a piece of junk. Save you all your money. It's a scam. Like you wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
You'd say, like, I should reach out to Ryan and say, "Hey, did I set this up properly?"
But I don't think it's the reviewer's responsibility to have to juggle the vendors in order to do that. What would be wrong with the vendor reaching out, applying a public but nice response and saying, "Hey, we think this happened. You know, can you have a dialogue with us to see if we can fix that?" You fix it, and then the request of the vendor may be, "Hey, can you just publish another video that says I did something wrong?"
Yeah, so same thing, different order, and I guess either one can work. The only downside is usually the negative part gets talked about on a podcast like we're doing right now, whereas the positive part doesn't ever get brought to light.
Depends on how you do it.
It's not as much entertainment if it's not, controversial, or you're not talking, it's not as dramatic, like as a few people have said.
Yeah, but some of my highest viewed videos are definitely not controversial.
Yeah. I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying I think that would be a professional thing to do. If there's something that is questionable. Now, if it is just the way it is, then hey, facts are facts, let them fly.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that, Chris. Yeah, so we've seen similar things, just some drama, but man.
Michael, you and I have had this conversation before, and I've had the personal experience with even just my little small world. And I know you've had it a lot more than me, where you'll get a product in, they want you to review it, but it's not something that you can give a good review on.
Correct. Yeah.
So you contact the manufacturer and you say, I can't give you a good review. Do you want me to still move forward and publish this with what I feel, or do you just want to drop this?
So
and how does that play out?
Sure. So there is an example. It's been many years ago. I reviewed a product and I was having issues. So here's what I do as a content creator, especially like when it's coming to electronics, because that's easy to tell. Okay, this thing isn't acting right. I always reach out to the manufacturer and say, "Hey, look, there's something wonky going on here," like whatever that is. If you hear a noise or whatever. And I do oftentimes give the manufacturer an opportunity to know about that in advance and ask, is this a known issue? Sometimes they say, yeah, we're working on that. We know that some consumers are having that. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure it's not something on my end. There have been times where, think about it, we will get a faulty product. Product just is. I mean, you can get that with a car. You can get that with an electronic. You can get a TV, whatever. So I'm okay with a company sending me a replacement unit because I don't want to base my review off of a unit that could have got damaged in shipping.
But as a seasoned reviewer, it's usually pretty easy to tell when something like that is going on. When there's an anomaly happening that probably shouldn't be there.
This isn't normal, but I reach out to the brand.
Yeah, and I would totally do that.
So, but yeah.
My point with all of this is that Aaron is not new to this.
No.
He's using a clipple, which takes a lot of this out of his hands.
Yeah.
And if he's finding something, and Tekton is not new. I mean, they've been around for a long time. If he's finding something, I don't know. I'm more of the objective side. I get the wanting to take care of everybody, but I think there's also something behind what Aaron does where he doesn't ask any vendors to send him anything. It's all him buying stuff, people like customers sending him things that they've bought. So there's no tie to the manufacturer. And I think he's comfortable enough in his testing methodology that he's not potentially worried about doing something wrong. And if he did, which he's potentially worried about maybe doing here, he issues a statement, retracts the video so that he can run a correction, right? And then goes from there. But I feel this is coming from a consumer side. I feel that if you're constantly working and troubleshooting things and anomalies that come up and then fixing them with the vendor, what happened to everything and the customers that bought the thing up till that point? And is the only reason this is being fixed because there's the potentiality of a negative review coming with it? Right. That's my problem with this whole thing.
And I'm not I'm with you. I'm like on the whole, like looking out for the consumers. And if that is the design and the design is flawed, then yeah, you should definitely publish that. What I'm saying is if it's something, and maybe it doesn't even apply to this situation. Like I said, it looks like the characters in this, it's pretty clear who is in what role. But if it's something where you think maybe it could be, like Michael said, is this normal? Is this expected? Give them the benefit of the doubt. At least give them a chance to explain. If they don't respond, or they blow you off, or they say, well, it is what it is, then hey, let it fly and let everybody know, do not buy. Because somebody else said it. It's like, I'm concerned with there's not enough negative reviews.
Yeah, I just saw
something like that.
Yeah, and I'll actually address that. Tom says, I rarely hear reviewers give a negative opinion, which is disconcerting as well. So part of it, all right, think about this. I, as a content creator, almost like maybe not every day, but literally probably every other day, every 3 days, I get an email from a brand or multiple brands saying, hey, Youthman, we love your channel. They've never seen my channel. But they're like, we would love for you to review our Bluetooth speaker. This thing's amazing. It looks like a robot. And I'm thinking, I have zero desire to review that. Number one, because I've never heard of your company. Number two, I'm just not interested in reviewing Bluetooth speakers personally. What I tend to review are most of the time brands that I know. Well, okay, I'm gonna keep bringing this back up. Sofa Baton reached out to me after Harmony declared, hey, look, we're shutting down, I think a year or two ago, and I reviewed their product. Go watch that review and you tell me, was that a positive review or was it a negative? Now, I'm not going to bash a brand, but I'm going to tell you, here's my experience with it. During my review, here's what happened is I had everything. I had some issues with it. I was working with them directly. Their app, I had some issues with. The software, the hardware, had some issues with. And I'm working with them. And then I'm getting ready to do my review. And of course, I want to record how to set this up. I'm trying to walk people through. So I'm like, you know what? I know what to do now. So I factory reset this joker, get it back to factory, install the app. I'm doing my recording. And guess what? In the middle of the video, the review, I'm walking somebody through and it's like error. And I'm like, isn't that nice? And then I fix that. We move on. I get another error. And at that point, I just get frustrated. I just kind of wrap up the review. There have been, I don't want to say a bunch, but definitely there, I can point you to specific vehicles on my specific, not vehicles, specific videos on my channel that were not all rosy. All right. I've reviewed Valencia. Watch the Valencia video I just posted. I like the chair, the new Monza, but I specifically, I picked up, all right, this kind of looks like it. They now use a aluminum piece that's about this tall, and you got to put that in the cup holder, and that's where your tray table goes. I'm just thinking, and I even asked them, like, Valencia, what's up with this? I went to put the tray table in the cubby. It doesn't fit. Like, Valencia, this is your tray table that doesn't fit in your seat. What gives? You know? And so everything isn't positive all the time, you know? Now, me being an optimist, I'm going to lean towards the positive stuff, but I'm not going to shy away from stuff that I don't think could be improved with a future product. And one thing that's great about being a content creator and pointing out some things from a consumer's perspective is this is something that I would like to see different in your product. I've mentioned many times originally when I first got Valencia seats, I said, man, I would love to be able to have a memory button to where I could press and it lock in my settings where I sit every single time, to be able to lean back at a certain spot, to be able to raise my headrest at a certain angle so that my eyes are always where they need to be. Guess what? Several revisions down the road, a couple years down the road, they introduced the Ultimate Luxury Edition that had that feature. Now, I'm not saying I was the one that convinced them to do that, but because we as content creators provide that feedback and say, hey, look, this doesn't work as well, or it could work better if you did this. There are some manufacturers that are listening to us and they take that feedback and they go, man, that's a great suggestion. And then they talk with their leadership and their design team and they figure out a way to implement that. So yeah, there are definitely some negative reviews out there, but the vast majority of the products that I choose to review, I got a pretty good chance these are going to be good products. Because why would I want to intentionally spend my time, my energy, not only using the product, setting up the product, calibrating the product, now making a video on the product just to tell you this thing sucks and you shouldn't spend your money on it? I would rather put my bet on a product that I think has a pretty good chance of sounding good, working good. It's going to be a quality product because I know the brand. Those are the products I want to review. And so maybe that's why, at least with my channel, a lot of the videos or a lot of the reviews are, you know, pretty positive, but it's not shy of negative for sure. So that's just my little.
I think
I'm
it
gonna-
depends. Go ahead.
I'm gonna put
Jonathan.
this comment up here because I think it's worth talking about.
Okay.
So Michael will know the story.
Go
but the
ahead
other
and read it.
gentleman-
If you don't mind, read it, because there are a lot of people that watch the podcast or listen to the podcast, so they don't get
Sure.
the
So
benefit.
Toya says leadership push. The problem, and he's talking to someone else in the chat. The problem is litigation is expensive. So chances are whoever's getting threatened from a lawsuit, and I'm going to add a little bit there, or they will just pull down the review and never talk about the company again. And that's a detriment to the consumer.
Yeah.
And so this is where it gets a little fuzzy for me. So Michael will know the story and Ryan and Rusty won't, but I got a projector sent to me from a company that was just an inexpensive Chinese projector that they asked me to review. I looked it over for a few weeks. I had a couple friends come over and look at it. We did some comparisons. They thought it would be equivalent to maybe $1,000 Optima or something. It's kind of what they said, frame of reference. The projector, I'm not going to mention the brand here, but the projector it wasn't up to par. Like, it was not something I could recommend to anyone for any reason, because I don't think it hit the quality threshold that would be a minimum recommendation for me. I would say you need to save a little bit more, you need to spend a little bit more. This is an inexpensive device, like $200 or $300. So I reached out to the company. I said, like I said earlier, I can't give you a positive review. And that was after talking to Michael to see how he kind of handled it. Because I part of me said, just publish the review. And you got these they've got to be fake reviews. I mean, let's be honest. They got to be fake reviews on Amazon. They're giving it like 5 stars and stuff. I mean,
Like,
that doesn't
that's
even
not
make
my
sense.
experience. Yeah.
So part of me was thinking like, just publish the review. And this is like what Ryan's talking about. Like the chips fell, you gave me the device, just publish it out. Is that a situation where I could get sued as a reviewer for giving a negative review on something because it's just opinion? I mean, and doing comparison side by side and showing like that's where does that line gets crossed? If you don't publish it, which is the way I decided to do, because I talked to the reviewer, they just decided not to publish it. That's a bad thing for the consumer because all they see is those Amazon 5-star review type things. I mean, that you see what I'm talking about? Like there's, to Ryan's point, if we're trusted reviewers and we're reviewing something that's bad, there's part of the mindset that just thinks publish the review, let the chips fall where they do. And the other part is, where does that leave you in the lurch for this kind of situation where somebody could come after you and say, like Rusty said, this is my pet project. I've invested my whole 401k savings in it. You screwed it up. Now no one will buy my product because you reviewed it poorly. I'm going to sue you. Like, wow. Like, where does that?
Well, what I'm saying though, one distinction is if you reviewed it, not that you gave it a negative review, but if it was not true, like if there was things in your review that were false, right? Like bad measurements or bad. And yeah, I know a lot of it's subjective. And if you just say subjectively, I don't like the way it looks, that you can't really argue with. But I'm talking if you gave false information, then you should be held accountable for spreading false information.
So here's how I see this. I see both of your guys' perspectives. A big demonstration of this and how it can go poorly is the Linus Tech Tips cold plate review that was done on a GPU. And there was a startup company that was being done, and you guys can go, I think Gamers Nexus did a big video on this. And other content creators have done videos on this and how Linus Tech Tips handled this. They effectively gave this cold plate review for a GPU a very poor rating, saying, don't buy this. It's not worth your time. Startup company. You're just wasting your money. The problem is they installed it on a GPU that it was not designed for. And it was specifically communicated to them because it was a prototype. It must go on this type of GPU, and they didn't do it. So they published a review saying it was terrible. And if I remember correctly, there may have been a retraction that effectively said in the comment somewhere that, hey, we got this wrong, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember if that happened or not, but that's historically previously how Linus Tech Tips would do their retractions, like their edits and things of, hey, this was different. This should have said this. They wouldn't update the video. They wouldn't take a video down and republish because that would take too much money. Right. That is a way of doing it poorly. Right. On the other side of this, I think it is very important. This is how I've done it at M-Wave historically. I think to get a very honest review from a really dedicated reviewer trying to go at the objectivity of things in measurements and data, you can't be beholden to a vendor or a manufacturer.
Sure, absolutely.
You have to be third party on your own and buy the product on your own, right? Because then it's your product. You own it. And then I think it's also very important that it's conveyed in a very objective way. Look at how Database did things. It was all data. It was all based on objectivity. There were some negative subs on there that didn't do well, but I don't think a lot of the subs, I think he bought, if I remember correctly, he owned
or were loaned from other members. Sure.
Yes. And I think that's really the only way that you can get an objective outcome from a lot of these. It's how ASR does it. It's how Aaron does it. And Michael, you're doing a lot of like opinion-based stuff. So you're targeting a totally different segment.
Sure.
So I think it's really important that if people are going to do this, that they do it objectively. And I think that's really important. But I think it's also not their responsibility.
That's what I was going to say.
Not their responsibility. And maybe I'm going to go a different direction, Michael.
And you may go ahead.
It's not their responsibility to communicate to the vendor.
That's not what I was going to say.
Okay. Now, the opposite side of this from the vendor's perspective is that this can actually, if it's communicated negatively, it
Mhm.
can work depending on how it is communicated from the vendor back to them in a positive light for
Mhm.
the vendor.
Yeah.
If it is done correctly, how it is being done with Tekton, and guys, this is my opinion, by the way, how it is
Mhm.
being done with Tekton is not being done correctly. If
Yeah.
this was communicated in a very open light that said, hey, I typically measure things with the feed on. I think this is what you could get. Here are my measurements that happen with the feed on, provide objective data behind them. That could have been really good, right? But instead, we're threatening litigation.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what happened in the Linus Tech Tips video is it effectively almost, and I don't know the history after the video, bankrupt this company
Mhm.
because they did things wrong. So I think it is very important if
Mhm.
you're going to review these things as a objective reviewer that
Mhm.
you do them and have some historical context and knowledge behind these reviews, like what Aaron and Amir do with their clipples, right? They're
Mhm.
very little that is uncontrolled in those environments with clipple data. They both have huge backgrounds in
Mhm.
understanding about how to measure this stuff.
And how to
So
do it properly.
and how to do it properly.
Mhm.
So I do think it takes a certain type of individual to be able to do this. This is not something that everybody should
Yeah.
or can do. But I think there's positives that the review or the vendor could take from this. And I
Mhm.
say that because I've been on that side of it, not from AdVR, but from my flight simming stuff, that if you word things positively, you can totally flip the tables. And
Mhm.
if the reviewer is doing something malicious, you can bury them, because the public, though it may seem kind of strange, can totally feel how this whole situation is playing
Mhm.
out based on how both parties are acting.
Yeah.
And typically, not always, but typically, they will side with the appropriate party. I'm not saying it always happens,
Yeah.
but in the cases that I've seen it happen, and there have been some very nefarious situations that I have seen and been involved with companies and things happening in the flight sim world, it
Mhm.
was, if things are approached a correct way,
Yeah.
things can work out,
Yeah.
right? But this situation is not being done correctly,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
And I'm seeing some people in the chat, and they're basically saying that the problem with this tactic, if you would call it that, is it can definitely harm the company, because people are like, I don't want to buy from a company that
Yes.
is acting like this. Like,
No.
where's that coming from?
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely some fairness to that thought.
But if you take this how like Buckeye did an amazing job of this. And you can go find his stuff on ASR. ASR reviewed something, one of his amps, and there was a problem with, there was like some distortion or something being generated by something in the amp.
Right.
Buckeye Dylan very professionally stated, hey, we investigate this further?
Mhm.
They found the problem. He was very communicative throughout the entire process.
Mhm.
Very communicative. And the public, the people that are on ASR, loved him for it.
Sure.
Right? Even though there was a
Respected him
problem
because-
right there,
Yes.
him showing the willingness to then
Yeah.
fix the issue, have open dialogue and communication, people forgot about the problem. It didn't
Yeah.
matter. You could have problems in the future. It didn't matter, because now they've seen that the willingness of Dylan from Buckeye to correct the issue, now they feel like their best interest is at heart. So this is what I mean, that I don't think that the reviewer has to directly approach the vendor. A big part of benefit can happen from how the vendor interacts with the reviewer if something negative is uncovered or potentially misrepresented. And it's all about the professionalism, the objectivity, and how things are communicated from both sides. And if done properly, it can be huge outcomes, even if the initial is negative.
Mhm.
You can still end in a positive, a very big positive, potentially.
Sure. So Aaron, appreciate you in the chat, man. He just dropped in. He says, hey guys, just wanted to clarify, the review wasn't negative at all.
Yeah.
I did contact the manufacturer before I listened before I listened or measured the speakers. I was unaware of the feet being needed. They weren't sent. So again, these were sent, I believe, from maybe one of his patrons or maybe one of his subscribers. And he
A
said, I
user.
hadn't seen photos of the speaker on their website with the feet. Aaron, Ryan actually pulled up some pictures on other reviews of that speaker. Steve Guttenberg reviewed it and he didn't have the feet on, but yet that review is actually on their website, which is kind of interesting.
And then I've
Um,
correlated that to another review that was on the website that showed feet that were
Yeah.
not in the same place. So looking at the bottom of the speaker,
Mhm.
the stand that was holding up Steve's speaker was not covering the holes. So they
Yeah.
were definitely open.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, Aaron, I know, man, we just wanted to have a conversation around this because I saw your post, man, and my heart goes out to you. I think it's unfortunate. And so, but yeah, that's wild. He said, that's all I'm going to say, but I appreciate the input here. Back to packing for my move while I listen. All right, brother. Good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Ryan, to your point, I totally agree. And especially, and it's pretty evident in this particular case when you see how it was, how the owner responded unprofessionally. You can kind of tell who is who in this situation. And people are talking about, well, I wouldn't buy from this company regardless, just based off of how they reacted. And I agree 100%. My comments were more kind of in general, not this specific case, just in general, just trying to be as fair and objective. But I liked, somebody had a great comment earlier I showed just for a second. It said
What was it?
Said that it should be reviewers that said something like reviewers that give positive reviews of bad products should be sued. And I agree with that too.
There you go.
Like,
yeah, 100%.
Yes.
We need to be held accountable. And
it should go both ways, because if anybody that's not
Yeah.
telling the truth should be held accountable.
And
And you should have to, I think you do have to state if the product was given to you.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
You do, but how many actually do it?
Well, and the same thing, if a video is sponsored, like I'm going to be doing a video here pretty soon. It's a sponsored video. Guess what? First 30 seconds of the video, you're going to hear me say this product or this video is sponsored by such and such. It won't be a review because I don't do sponsored reviews, but I'll be talking about the product. I'm letting you know this product exists. It's a Kickstarter. You might be interested in it. If you do, go check it out. That's a sponsored video.
This entire podcast is sponsored by Ryan. So go sue him if there's something you don't agree with.
You don't like this? That's on him.
Send AV.
No.
Put that on all the lawsuits.
I've been on
on
the other side of this. I think if you're open, honest, and transparent about it, people, even though it's through the internet and a lot of times through text, they can tell.
Sure.
Yeah.
They can tell.
And I love these comments, man. And so I'm going to read these in case Aaron's still listening while he's packing. He says, Peter says, Aaron is so mature. What a guy. And then someone else says, Mike says, Aaron's a stand-up guy and the type of person that you would want to know. And that's been my experience of him. Absolutely. Hey, bro, get back to work, man. You're still chatting here. He says, for what it's worth, I kind of poo-pooed Fosse's ZA3 amp. 2 days later, I got an email from them thanking me for the honesty. Dude, I love that. That's the way a company should respond, and letting me know that they were working on fixes and updates. That's the cool stuff. That's what we would want and hope from a manufacturer.
Now, I will hope, Aaron, I don't mean to target.
He's still typing, man.
But I think it's really important that if reviewers get comments like that, that they throw those out to the public, because that showcases what that brand is really about. Right. So that's the other side of this. If you're going to put out a negative review, you got to be willing to showcase the positives that a brand is willing to do to overcome and fix those problems.
100%.
Right. I think that's also very important.
And I think in the long term, man, that speaks volumes about that brand, their integrity, their character, and just what they stand for. Their desire is to make the best product for the consumer.
Now, devil's advocate there, though, because I like to do that, is would that have been fixed if you didn't release the review? Right. So
Oh,
who
right,
knows?
right. Yeah. So
A
May
lot of
not
gray
be
area.
here or there, but one of the
Mm.
gentlemen here in the chat said that their wife is a litigation attorney. He talked this over with her and said that the plaintiffs wouldn't have a
Yeah.
chance in this
I don't
case.
think anybody believes that they do. Yeah.
No.
You know, it's and somebody mentioned earlier, they're like, this is a bully tactic, and it sure appears that way.
Mhm.
It's like, hey, because I don't even know if there has even been any, I don't know the legality. I don't think there's any proper form sent to Amir or sent to Aaron saying cease and desist or whatever.
Well, for what it's worth, we don't even know that Eric threatened litigation against Aaron.
What I'm saying, I'm looking at what you read earlier in Amir.
With Amir,
He
yeah.
did, absolutely.
With Amir, yes.
Yeah,
But I'm saying
yeah.
with Aaron, there was never
Yeah,
anything
I don't
said.
know the story there, but,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at what he said to Amir, and he's like, litigation will ensue. Stay tuned. And that's like, come on, man. You know,
Yeah.
I bet Amir's over there going, bring it, buddy. I got plenty of money. I'll hire my attorney.
I got a
Let's
clip.
go let's go to bat.
I think a big part of that is that they threaten
See-
litigation because you're going to have to spend money on lawyers and stuff just to get the thing thrown out. And it's just, if you don't want to deal with it, a lot of times it's easier just to take the thing down, which is really sad that tactic can even exist.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate.
It is.
Siphonics Audio says people talk about loving honesty and transparency, but only if it makes them look good.
Yeah. You got to be willing to admit when you're wrong.
Yeah. And that's okay. And here's the reality. There's no perfect product. I have reviewed countless products, speakers, amplifiers, receivers, processors, projectors. There's not one single product that was perfect. None.
The
Never
internet makes this. Somebody was saying that cars and stuff, you know, there's all these recalls and things like that. And I can think about a lot of old cars. Man, a lot of old cars were pieces of crap. I mean, things falling off and all kinds of problems. I think one of the biggest issues that manufacturers have to deal with now is the world is so interconnected that if something goes wrong, everyone knows about it.
Everybody knows
immediately.
Yeah.
So the recalls on certain things, you know, yeah, maybe you could say that things aren't made as well. I don't know. I'm just using this as an example. They're fixing them, right? At least. But you bought a car in the 60s and something was wrong with it. I don't know if it got fixed. Like what happened if the gas cap broke or something? You have to go buy another one instead of a recall being done. I took my truck in for a recall. They were fixing things I didn't even know was wrong. And I got this, it wasn't a huge list. They were like, yeah, if you spill something here, it's porous. It can go down into the computer. I'm like, well, that would have been bad, but they fixed it. So some of it is just not knowing. Like you can't expect even the big companies to know everything, though we think they should. But the internet can be dangerous because everybody knows everything very, very quickly, positive or negative.
Sure.
So communication and how it's communicated, positively or negatively, is very important, almost more than the subject of that communication. Should we get into questions now?
Yeah. Like I said, it's just something that's super relevant. And we just thought that'd be a conversation that really should be had because, like I said, I don't think this is fair against the content creators, those that are reviewing these products. You know, if there's an issue, reach out to them, you know. But again, I come at it from a different perspective too. I come at it from a Christian perspective. If a brother sins against you, if he's done you wrong, you go to him and you have a conversation with him. You figure it out. You see if you can work it out. Then if you can't work it out, you get other people involved. But it almost seemed like this was just, forget that, dude. You know, I don't know. It just, great conversation. Appreciate it, Van. Cool, man. I'm just looking at some of the comments here. All right, cool. All right, well, let's jump into some comments real quick. I'll say real quick. Where are we at? 2 hours. All right. Anthony, did we do that? We did that.
You
one.
did that one.
Yes.
Unstar that and make sure. Okay, cool. We got a couple super chats here. Let me hit those first. Ryan Atkins said, appreciate the $10 super chat. Looking for a new receiver. Is Dirac really that great, especially for music? And does a higher end receiver sound any better? DAC amps section, it gets very confusing and everyone has an opinion online. And there's probably 4 different opinions right here that are going to
I
share
don't
our
know. I
opinion.
think it's going to be very similar.
Yeah. There are people that live and die and they will almost mock somebody that has Odyssey. I guess that's where I have a problem. Somebody was asking, man, do you still have your AV7706 from Marantz? Yeah, I love it. It sounds great. It's done really well for me in my room. And people are like, hey, if you only get Dirac, you're gonna. I mean, I've tried Dirac in my room. I've done ARC in my room, and I don't. It's not crazy. Like Dirac didn't do something that Odyssey didn't do. Dirac has more features and has more granular control than Odyssey does, at least the base version of Odyssey, without doing like Odyssey multi EQX. But I think just in and of itself, I think you can get any of those wrong. So it all also depends on implementation of it. If you don't know how to use Dirac, you could really mess it up. If you don't know how to use Odyssey, you can really get some funky results, you know? So I think there's that. But what are your thoughts on that? Is Dirac all that in a bag of chips, especially for music?
I'm going to let the other two start because I've been talking a lot.
And if you buy a higher end receiver, more expensive, does that automatically mean you're going to get a better sound?
Well, I guess so. When we did the room correction blind testing at M-Wave, there were 2 that stood out to me as being better than the others consistently, and that was the ARC and Dirac. I couldn't tell the difference between the 2 really, but I could tell I liked those 2 better than the Odyssey. And what was the other one? Lingdorf?
Room Perfect.
Yeah, Lingdorf is Room Perfect. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But even then, I mean, it was so difficult to tell, like on like the even between the 4, but I could pretty well clue in on the top 2 consistently, but it wasn't easy. And I'm like, and if I was doing it where there was,
and you were doing fast switching.
Oh yeah. Instant switching.
Yeah.
If we were doing it, of course, with a minute between, no way I could tell the difference.
So think about this though, Rusty, real quick. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do mean to interrupt you. If I review something with Odyssey, or if I listen to something with Odyssey, and then in my own system, I take it out, because that's what people are doing. They're buying something new, they're putting it in, they're installing it, they're setting it up, they're calibrating it. That's minimum 30, 45 minutes, minimum. And then they're going, man, this was amazing. Wow, what a difference. Is that possible to do?
Well, you know, I've played around in my own room with Dirac and just toggling it on and off without changing the distances and levels or trims and levels. And it's an obvious improvement. Like it's substantial improvement with it on versus off. Now, could I get that same performance manually or do better? Well, if I had the time and the knowledge, I'm probably could. Or if I hired a professional calibrator, I probably could. But I think that Dirac for somebody where you have an hour, it's not that hard to do. Yeah, there's some like guidelines you need to follow, but it works. And man, I got that echo coming back.
And this is true here too. Depends on the brand. Each brand or factory implements, yeah, Dirac in their own interpretation. Basically, they have different ways that they, implement that into their hardware and software.
So I will point out in the M-Wave comparison, at least in the first year, the M-Wave 2022, was it? That when Odyssey is completed, they intentionally left the settings as each auto EQ configured it. And that's fine. That's a choice to do it. But the crossover frequency points were different. you're not going to get the same levels between all of them if you let the mass manufactured bundled mics be part of the equation.
True.
They're not going to even try to target the exact same curves. So there's a lot of differences in there that can be both independent based on the mic you have or the room you have. It can also be subjective because maybe it targets a different curve than what you're used to. Where I was going with the original M-Wave reminder was the Odyssey calibrated one of those front speakers to a very low hertz. And Ryan, you might remember, Michael, I think it was like 40 or something it put it at. And I sat in the front row during one of those demonstrations. This isn't the fault of the speaker that we were using for that audition.
Right.
It was bottoming out.
Yeah.
It was the only AVR that was bottoming out in that AVR comparison. And it was Odyssey's fault, or whatever, because if we're really getting frank about this, it's the processor that uses Odyssey's data to choose the crossover point. So it was the AVR company's fault for choosing too low frequency bounds. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, by a slight adjustment to say there was nothing wrong with the test and just leaving it at default. But if you had adjusted those crossover points to like 80 hertz, for instance, on Odyssey, that speaker wouldn't have bottomed out anymore. Yeah. And that bad sound would have been removed from that track, and it might have changed the opinion. So, I mean, just little variables like that can come into play with a little bit of knowledge or a little bit of extra setup at the end after the automation is done. You're tailoring it and making sure it's right, can really affect the outcome. I heard people in there saying there's something wrong with this. I don't really know what it was, but there was maybe it didn't sound as good as the other. It was making a bad noise. The speaker was bottoming out, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. My opinion on DACs, we've talked about this on several podcasts. I won't spend a lot of time. I think we're well beyond the level of audibility for DAC differences. Mm-hmm. So I see people in the comments saying, I went from one Yamaha to a newer Yamaha has better DACs. I can tell a huge difference. I don't agree with you. I'd have to be proven that. And I've had a lot of experience in getting proved in the other way, like trying to hear the difference and not able to hear it myself. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong.
I will.
I'm going to tell you that I have not had any experience that would back that up. It's been the opposite experience for me. But I think that there's a whole lot of variabilities in setups and mics and everything else that could make that difference very easily different, but not the DAC. The next thing is Dirac versus anything else. I've already kind of spoke that. They all have different targets, different differences in the mics that's set up. I mean, it's just going to be like almost like a pin the tail on the donkey game, honestly. I mean, I really think you could bring in 5 Odyssey receivers and just run an Odyssey test between 5 different receivers and five different results.
And maybe even the same receiver.
Yeah.
Same model.
The mics alone, plus or minus 2.5 dB, like we talked, that's a 5 dB swing that's allowed. That's not even out of spec. That's allowed. Can you imagine boosting the treble 5 dB on one receiver and the other one and not having it and then saying like, well, these sound dramatically different. It's the same dang receiver. It's got the same internal components. The mic was the only difference. So, that's a hard question to answer, whether you like one or the other. My favorite is just manual EQ with frequency response graphs to back it up and plot out what you like individually. That's all we'll say.
Cool.
I'm going to step in here.
Do it.
So Odyssey, I agree with what Jonathan said. Odyssey can be difficult to differentiate from any of the other ones, especially when you go run to run. I mean, every time you do any of these room EQs, you're going to get a different result. Almost universally, regardless of whatever room EQ it is, it's going to be at least slightly different than the other one for how it was done. Odyssey, for its mic variants, I think is going to be very widely depending on what happens. You may like one, you may not like one, depending on what ends up happening. As it pertains to Dirac or Odyssey being better, Dirac does certain things that Odyssey can't. It also allows a lot more granularity and customizability that Odyssey doesn't deliver to you. You have a lot more control, and now with Art, it can do a lot more that Odyssey can't, with fixing room modes and active cancellations and a bunch of other cool things that it can do. So it's tremendously powerful. Will you like it over Odyssey? that's difficult to tell because most people aren't going to have two AVRs or pre-pros that they can switch back to back within a split second to directly correlate between those two. Because if you go and spend even a minute or two between those, your auditory memory is gone. You can't remember exactly how things were, and it is going to be nigh impossible for you to be able to tell, well, was Odyssey that much better or worse than Dirac or vice versa? So you've got to do things in an objective fashion. If you do things subjectively and don't account for those variables, you are setting yourself up for a subjectivity bias. Bar none. Gonna happen.
Does Odyssey do the more advanced multi-sub bass management, or is there a version that does that?
XT32 does multi-sub.
Yeah.
Okay. Would that change your answer on like direct live bass control versus
No.
the X30? What did you say? XT32? Does that change anything?
Yeah. No. You still have more control in Dirac than you do in Odyssey. There's nothing wrong with that. And the reason we did that in 22 with not changing anything is because we figured most people, enthusiasts or not, are not going to change anything after they do Odyssey. They're going to run it and they're going to leave it.
Well, it's auto EQ. You expect it to be auto.
Yes.
Right.
That's the whole point.
So that's why we left it the way we did. We just left.
I've got a video that did very, very well. And it was one just literally teaching people how to level match. I'm like, oh my gosh, my system sounds so much better now that all the speakers are matched.
Yep. And it's funny you bring up the point about level
they didn't
matching.
know to do that until I told them they should do that.
The point about level matching is, I think that is a subjective bias that people run into when they're doing and correlating, well, this DAC or this AVR or this amp,
Did they level match it?
Runs into. They're not considering the SPL. They're not considering the gain structure of that particular device. They're not considering the actual specifications that you may not consider when you're looking at something to buy, but when you're trying to compare, you have to consider, because they will directly correlate to how you're taking in things during comparison. If the gain structure is different and the SPL is different, you are definitely 100% going to prefer one over the other. If the only difference is one is louder, you will almost unanimously pick the louder one. It's just like if a speaker can get lower, you will almost 100% pick the one that can get lower. You're just going to do it. It's human nature. We subconsciously will choose those variables. So if you don't account for that, you are setting yourself up to have a subjective outcome. And I think this is what happens to a lot of people when they say, well, I can hear X, Y, or Z. Well, I can almost guarantee what you're hearing is an SPL difference. Now, yes, Amir has done these tests where he's compared different fidelities of music and things like that. And if you sit there and listen to something over and over and over, and it's a really, really small sample, and it was specifically picked to showcase these differences, you may be able to figure out something if you have high enough fidelity things to do it. You can definitely measure differences. But my point is that during daily listening, especially in surround, you're not going to be able to figure it out. I mean, Jonathan, we did this with the Dirac against optimizer comparisons. And when we turned on movies, it was next to impossible to determine any differences. But when you had 2-channel on, it was easy to figure out what they were doing with phasing, SPL, and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, so I love these comments. I think they're hilarious. Chad's like, people wouldn't have to level match if Odyssey actually works. The reality is I've never had any calibration software get it exactly right, ever. You know? So I don't think this is an Odyssey thing. I just don't think they're 100% accurate when they measure those. Well, so that's why you always verify. Use an SPL meter, see where they're at, and then make adjustments and get them all level.
One thing to think about is, I think RP22 actually talks about this for the different levels of theaters, is and this is a benefit to having big rooms, is if you're SPL level matching, what are you level matching to? What seat are you level matching to? If you're only doing it to the middle seat, well, now your left seat is not level matched because the speaker, if the
As you
room's
move
small
on,
enough,
yeah.
is now going to be closer to one speaker, and it's
Mhm.
going to be hotter for that one and colder to the other one on the other side of the wall. So the
Yeah,
benefit,
makes
one of the benefits to the big rooms with like level 3 and level 4 and RP22 is that if the room gets large enough and the speaker distance is large enough, the drop off of SPL becomes
sense.
great enough that it's not nearly as substantial as it crosses all of the listening positions.
Right.
So that's something that you have to consider. And I know we talk about room correction getting it wrong all the time, but
Mhm.
I think part of the reason that it's wrong is because it's considering, or not, I'm just playing devil's advocate here again, is it's considering all of the seats. So yeah, if you want it right at the main listening position, definitely SPL match. But just
Mhm.
know if your room's small enough, now your left and right seats are probably wrong.
Yeah.
Not that they were right to begin with. I'm just
And I'm okay
giving you
with that
things to think
because I'd
about.
rather have my seat sounding great than none of the seats sounding great.
Oh yeah, I think we
So
all would.
That's just me. Good question. Good conversation there, man. All right. Ryan. Okay, so we got his. Neil, appreciate the $5 super chat. I don't think he had a question on that.
There's another super chat that just came in, just so you're aware.
Okay, cool. Mitsu Kid, $2 super chat. He says he needs help selling his NX5 recommendations. I mean, there's a bunch of different places. I tend to, of course, I'd reach out to my patrons first anytime I sell anything, if I'm making an upgrade. But for you guys, I would think Facebook Marketplace. Craigslist to me isn't a good option anymore. I used to buy and sell a lot on Craigslist. It's terrible nowadays. But even Facebook Marketplace is difficult. You got a lot of scammers reaching out to you wanting to buy it. And there's always the audio gone. So there's that.
US Audio Mart.
Yeah, US Audio Mart, Canuck. There's a lot of online places. Usually those you have to
Pay.
either pay to list or they take a percentage. eBay.
ABS Forum has a classified section that's still pretty active and it's free.
Sure.
I think US Audio Mart has a freeway.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've got the Youthman crew Facebook groups. There's a lot of places that'll allow you to, post. I'd try the free ones first, see if you get any traction. If you don't, then go to maybe some paid options like eBay or something.
Just
Get
be
more
vigilant
exposure.
of who you're talking to, though.
What's that?
Be vigilant of who you're talking to and do your due diligence.
Best
in any of them.
I always recommend get on the phone with them if you can, because usually you can fill somebody out
And no checks.
verbally. Yeah.
Yeah. So when y'all buy and sell stuff, what payment methods do you accept?
Cash.
I do cash, but I'll do Venmo and
Yeah.
Zelle and all that other crap too. PayPal.
Yeah.
I mean, I cheat because I'm a vendor, so I have access to everything. So I'll do credit cards and stuff, but
most of those will give you protection too. So
Yeah.
if you do get scammed, there's insurance there that,
but as a private person, Venmo, cash, effectively.
Cash is best, but technically that could be false too.
Yeah.
And give some fake $100 bills.
Venmo. I mean, what's the bank one that people use now? Not Venmo.
Zelle.
I use Zelle. Yeah.
There's a bunch.
I use all those. Just no checks, no money orders.
Yeah. None of that trash. Yeah, I agree. For sure. Yeah, home theater, HTE Marketplace. Yeah, there's a bunch of places. Yeah, for sure. Third-party escrow, that might get a little.
I've done that with Magic cards.
Yeah. Pavel, appreciate the $2 super chat. Do you guys run BEQ, which is Base EQ integration with the new Anthem? I have never used BEQ. I've experienced it at a couple of home theater tours, but
I use Base EQ, but I don't use Anthem, so I don't even know. I guess you'd have to. I don't know if there's any way it will actually integrate, or if you just have to use a mini DSP.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd have to use a mini DSP. I think the Monoprice is the only one with direct implementation.
It's the only one I know of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't buy it for that reason. It's just a nice little perk.
Layaway. I love it. Wire transfer.
This isn't Kmart.
Yeah. Funny stuff, dude. That hurts. Appreciate the $2 super chat. Technodad Atmos video ideas placements versus heights. Don't know.
Has anybody seen this video?
I have not.
No, there's been a lot of comments on that in the chat, and I haven't seen it, but I gotta say, like, I'm always skeptical when somebody says, all right, Dolby's been doing this and like kind of created the format and the standard and has done, I don't know, millions of dollars of research. And then somebody else just says, if this is what they're saying is just throw that all away, that always seems kind of sets off yellow or red flags.
That hurts. Can you link the video?
It's probably on that disc that Technodad sells, is my guess.
Well, I want to know what he's talking about.
Is this, do you guys know the context? If Michael, had you seen it, you said, or not?
I have not. No.
So I have a comment on this, but I don't know if it's that exact video. You can correct us in the chat. But
is it this one here? There's a recent one.
There's a local guy in the Kansas City group who has based his speaker placement effectively on like what the comments are saying right now, like an Oro 3D layout, where you're, instead of using like top, middle, and front top and rear top, he's using like front wall. Because Technodad has a video where he's putting like voices and putting objects. I mean, he's got an Atmos software thing. He's putting objects against the front wall in the ceiling up high. And so the local member who's talking about this is saying like, hey, look, in your system, here, you don't have an ability to put an object on the front wall because there's no speaker there. Your speaker's here.
Right.
And so if I want an object on the front wall, you've got to blend it between these two. So he's moved his speakers or set up his speakers against the front wall and against the rear wall and then a top middle. And the reality, in my opinion, is having been in a whole lot of rooms, that's a worse setup. Experientially, I will say that, because content that they use when you're using real content isn't as audible in rooms I've been where the speaker is at the front of the room or the very back of the room. It's better, in my opinion, if you're going to err, you should err on collapsing the sound field, because that's where, your ears hear that better, localize that better. And so, in my opinion, like bringing the surround field in on the top is the better route. Just having been in as many rooms as I've been in. So I don't know if that's what they're referring to, but if that's what they're referring to, it's an interesting discussion, because while it may not be able to put the item pinpoint in exactly every place that you move the cursor on that little software, I don't think that's necessarily relevant to real content.
Well, and I don't understand how Dolby can be wrong when the content is specifically designed for this setup. The other problem I have with it is if you put the speakers up like that, you have virtually no separation between the channels, depending on the room. Now, if the room was tall enough, sure, I get that. But, and this is just opinion, guys, because I'm looking at the speaker setup, so I can share this with you. This is effectively what he's saying. Share screen, window, this share. So he's saying this. So they're matching the surround layer, is what I can tell here. And then I don't think he's, yeah. So he's matching the bed layer there. And I agree with Jonathan. You'd want it collapsed. And if the speakers, ideally, I think all of your speakers should be the same or very close to the same. If phasing is set up correctly, you should be able to put an object anywhere in the room.
It blends the speakers. It images from that location, or at least does well enough.
I mean, that's Chernov's claim to fame, with being able to put a speaker sound like it's anywhere in the room.
Right.
And if phasing and the speaker and everything, all the other attributes are set up correctly with that, all the speakers and the EQ, it should be fine. I really wouldn't think there was a problem. If you're putting things on the wall and it's raining, I don't know. I'd have to experience it to have any more information. But with the current setup, I don't really have any shortcomings with it. And I had front heights and rear heights that were directly above my front and rear channels. And I
can't even tell they're on, frankly, in real world content. That's been my experience.
Because they blend in with the fronts.
Exactly.
The stage, if the room was like 16 feet tall, maybe, but in the average consumer's room, in my room, in the
Mhm.
Mad VR Experience Center, it's the ceiling's 8 feet tall. It's not tall enough to have the separation. That is why they're overhead, because you need the channel separation. If they're right above the other speaker, it's just going to sound like the other speaker. And maybe I haven't listened to this. Maybe that's what he's saying here, is you want them to sound the same. I don't know.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't weigh in until we hear this video. So we're
Yeah.
all weighing in on what we think it's going based on
Yeah.
really what we assume.
I'm going to watch
So,
this after the
Yeah, I will too.
stream.
How we're gonna get sued.
I will say this.
At least Ryan is.
very clearly. After being in as many rooms as I have, and Michael, you can weigh in because you've been in a lot of rooms too, and Ryan for that matter too. Just in general, when rooms have the ceiling speakers really spread out, like at the outside range of what Dolby recommends or further, I can't tell there's even ceiling speakers on with real world content. I mean, it sounds like just a 7.1 theater at that point to me.
Just kind of blends in.
Yeah.
So that hurt says he argues that Atmos front channel, if it's not directly above the LCR, then it's an unnatural movement into the room on the ceiling versus straight up. What happens if it's straight up and then straight onto the ceiling, which is where I think they should be and is where I typically try to get them. You follow your LCR, go straight up the wall, and then come straight back onto the ceiling, and then it's a natural movement. Goes straight up and onto the ceiling.
Well, I remember watching, man, it's been a long time ago, but Steven from Home Theater Gurus has a really in-depth video on how most people get that wrong. And if I remember correctly, his recommendation is you actually don't follow your LCR or left and right straight up and mount it there at the right angle. But I forget, and you guys can let me know in the chat where he suggests, but I don't remember if it's in a little bit or if it's further out a little bit, but there's a lot of different varying opinions. And that's honestly, that's really what it is.
Well, if he's saying you have to use 6 for Atmos, the problem with 6 for Atmos, and everybody here can agree, is that most content doesn't use 6. So you're only using 4.
Caution there, but yes, a significant amount of content.
Okay, fair enough. A significant amount of content. I would say most of Disney.
Yes, that's fair.
Doesn't use 6. Content. And then we have found that if you have 6 and it doesn't use 6, it can actually make things worse.
Yeah.
So here's the prime example. So SRW 1000 says Grimani also believes in bringing them closer to the center of the room.
Well, obviously Grimani is wrong.
And then the next post, I think Leadership Push is talking about Steven from Home Theater Gurus. He recommends further out. So again, there's I was thinking about Steven's.
And for anybody's context, we are going to go watch this video, and I will freely admit if
placement based on angles.
Wrong.
And there's a lot of confusion, a lot of debate on, when we go to the Dolby website, like Dolby's actual website, and you look up where should you place your speakers, they've got a whole page that shows almost every configuration: 7.1, 5.1, 7.2.4, 7.4.4, in ceiling, on wall, up firing speakers, and they give all these layouts. But then there's another side of that there's another document from Dolby that's what they give to the studios, and those are a different layout. And it's like, okay, which layout are you supposed to use? You're supposed to use the one that's on their website that most consumers are going to, or to use this one that studios are using where they place and they're mixing from. So it gets confusing, to be honest with you. Yeah. Super confusing.
Look out.
Yeah, go Dolby litigation.
Well, we all know I'm already getting sued by multiple parties, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Let me scroll back up here. Ryan says, hey guys, excited to get my AV10. Have you guys heard of Odyssey 1? I think we mentioned this in a previous podcast. I'm not familiar with it. There is a video online. You can Google it on YouTube. Just look up Odyssey 1. There's a gentleman. He has another YouTube channel. And in a nutshell, he's created a script that you can implement into Odyssey, and a lot of people seem they really like it, but I haven't used it personally. Have you guys?
I haven't used it.
Nope.
It's called Odyssey 1, but just
I
check
don't
it
even.
out.
The theater's non-existent right now, so
Yeah, true. Brian's like, I could care less about Odyssey.
I can't do anything.
Tiki Time. I think major electronic companies are missing a lot of customers by not investing their soundbar tech into egg chairs for home theater, gaming, and music. Your thoughts?
No, that's like the wraparound thing where it's over your head that would block all the surround field. What is that what we're talking
I
about?
think he's talking about putting that into the chair
Oh, so that it's like immersive, maybe?
and collapsing everything into the chair.
I mean, I'd be okay with that. I
Then you
play
wouldn't be
video
able to talk
games
to your neighbor.
at an arcade that have, speakers here. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, roller coasters like the
Yeah.
rock and roll roller coaster
Yes.
at MGM.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it could
You
work.
guys are all getting excited. I'm like, I'm out.
I didn't say I was excited. I was just giving
I'm
examples.
just
I,
saying
mean,
it's a possibility.
I don't think you're going to fit the 50 into an egg chair.
True. Gary Pye says, Ryan, I'm curious so far how much of the project, so your project, you're rebuilding your theater,
Mhm.
going all Ascendo, how much of that product has gone to plan?
So the Mad VR Experience Center has gone.
Depends on
Pretty
when
well
that
to
plan
plan.
was implemented, because
Pretty well to
I know the
plan.
plan has changed, but that's just more of what you're putting in it.
No, I think there hasn't been really any deviation. The ceiling will be the only deviation, really, from what I have
I
planned.
thought you went from 6 subwoofers to 8.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
How about timeline? Has that been according to plan?
That got pushed a little bit because Officina there was a little bit of fuss with the door. So that got pushed a little bit. It should be on a boat next week, and it should arrive early May, is what we're hoping,
Nice.
in Houston. And then it'll come up from Houston to here. And then we will work on getting it installed.
Is
I
the
gotta get-
budget going according to plan?
Yes and no.
Did Jonathan talk you into something else?
No. There was some talking myself into things based on objectivity. There was some opportunities to do some things for a lot less money or free from vendors. And I decided that I wasn't willing to, what's the word? I wasn't willing to change and settle just for the monetary amount. I felt like I was doing myself and my customers a disservice, and the customers of Mad VR, because it was the whole room, and the premise of the room is objectivity. And if I deviated from that just because of saving money, while yes, it hurt the wallet, it went against everything that the whole philosophy that I was trying to put into the room. And I felt like I would be lying to everybody that I showed the room to and to myself. So there's been a couple things that have come up with that. But other than that, no.
It's a pretty good project then.
It is. The ceiling is really the big deviation. And that's really not a big deviation. I'm just going to put some velvet over the top of it and call it good.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Well, it's more expensive coming together, but it's coming together.
Y'all got the reference, though. I think Jonathan did.
Yeah, I did. I'm just
checking. I'm showing age here, man. Used to watch that a lot as a kid. Roth says, just picked up an RP 1600 SW. Jonathan just mentioned the other day it was on sale for
Stupid price.
$1,100.
Not far before that, it was like the 1400 was like 800 or $700.
That's crazy.
And isn't the 1200 on sale?
When I went to the website that same day, it was normal price.
Well, you have to go through their Slick Deals link or whatever. They have a sneaky
Is that
link.
what it was?
Let's see if it's still there.
See, you didn't give me the context. You didn't say, hey, it's a slick deal.
Let me see if it's still there.
I just saw the Facebook post but it was linking to their website directly, I believe, if I remember the picture you sent us. Pretty
Yeah,
sure.
it had a link. I mean, it worked at the time. It might not be on sale.
I mean, I
It still
can't
says,
click on the link.
it still says it's on sale on Slick Deals, and it doesn't say expired. I'm clicking it right now.
All right. Don't get a virus.
Slick
Yeah,
Deals is a
see,
deal
the
for
link that they posted from was adorama.com.
Yeah,
so
you can't go directly to Adorama because they won't give you the deal. You got to go through Slick Deals. So
I see.
it's still
So
live.
It is going to their website. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they have the price for people who just go directly to the website, and they have this price for the coupon shoppers, basically.
All right, so you can go to, if you're interested in that, go to slickdeals.net, search for Klipsch RP 1600,
1,049 shipped, free shipping.
and okay,
That's
why am I
insane.
It's a pretty good deal.
That's
don't
not
see
just a pretty good deal. That's an insane deal.
Let me do without the.
I mean, really, that's probably, with all the press that got, Audioholics really liked that sub. I was
Do they
wrong on
really?
it. I assumed it would be a kind of another turd, but it wasn't. I mean, I haven't heard it myself, but
Yeah.
by all accounts, it's
You
not.
heard it at M-Wave.
Where did you?
I guess
see
that's
that?
true.
I'm not seeing it.
Are you on Slick Deals?
I am. I just
I
searched
just
for
typed in
Klipsch.
clip 16-inch and it came up.
I was looking for the actual model number.
I
16.
wonder, could you make a like an interesting base array out of like just by, I don't know, 8 of those and start
Yep, just for
stacking them?
16
And
inch. I'll
Yeah,
drop
but
it in.
even, I mean, at that point, you're still back better on the do-it-yourself realm, I think, because 8 of those would be $9,000.
so 2
You can do
captivators.
woodworking yourself. Go to GCS or GSG Audio, and you
There you
save
go.
a lot of money and get a stronger system at that point if you're buying that many.
I dropped it in the chat.
Did you find it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's weird. If you search for the model number with and without a hyphen, doesn't pull it up. But if you search for Klipsch 16-inch, it pulls right up. So yeah, I dropped it in the chat. But yeah, that's a crazy deal, man. That's a Youthman deal.
Man, if he just picked up the 1600 at full price, what's a PB16 Ultra cost? Is that $3,000?
It's 2,500, 2,500, 2,700. SPS PB16. Their sub right now for a single. I know you get a discount if you buy more than one, but a single is $2,900.
Woo!
Man,
Yeah, you
it's
can get
wild.
3 of those clipses
Yeah.
for that price. That's
It's
wild.
wild. Yeah.
The crazy thing is that SVS, and they make good stuff.
Mhm.
SVS used to be
Sure.
more general consumer, but for a PB16 or an SB16, you're looking at now getting into Ascendo the 16 or JTR 18
Mm-hmm.
RS1 territory. I mean,
All right,
that's
here
where
comes
you are.
Comes the comments, Ryan. Get ready.
You're such
Hey.
an elitist.
Art,
No,
Art's
I'm comparing the
Oh, I
price
just saw
point.
it. Art, what's up, brother? Art
Well,
is in
we
the
just know
house.
that's what's coming.
I'm comparing those two specific subs. You're on the
You
same.
did figure that out, Art. Appreciate it, man.
You're in the same vicinity.
I love it. Super cool, man. Good to see you, Art.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just clarifying it was in reference to dedicated theater rooms that emulate the classic theater.
Have any of you guys been to his room yet? I missed the
not.
last thing. I'd love
Yeah,
to.
he invited me when he was getting the Eclipse, and I already had something scheduled at that time. So I was like,
Art, can we schedule a trip?
let's do a AV experience at Arts.
That'd be awesome.
Heck yeah, man. I'd be down for that. Bow down to Eclipse. Yes, Art Rooms is amazing.
Where is he located?
Is it Indiana?
I don't even remember.
Art, where are you
that.
at?
He might
I
not
think
want to
it was-
say.
Well, I think it was
I
public.
think he's in the Midwest.
Yeah.
That's
I
all.
thought it was
That's
like
all we
Indiana.
need.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
Michigan, he says. I knew it was somewhere up there. I don't even know if Michigan and Indiana is even close.
he didn't say that. Randy said that.
Well, two people said that. Randy and SRW 1000.
Oh, we
But-
got the invite directly. Please
Yeah,
stop.
dude. He says, please stop by.
Anytime, day or night. That's how that reads.
I'll just stop by on my way to McDonald's tomorrow.
That's right.
You know, drive
That's right.
straight through to Michigan.
Oh, Randy said he was there. Awesome. Glad you got to experience that. Phenomenal, man. Honeybee encounters. Any experience?
Oh, and you got a super
Oh,
chat
did I miss one?
after this one. Do
I'm-
this one,
okay.
and then we'll get to it.
Any experience about the Class D Sonic amplifiers? I'm not familiar with that brand. I've seen them online, but I haven't had any experience with them.
I think Sonic makes decent stuff. I don't have much experience with them, but given from the comments I made earlier about Dylan and Buckeye, I would just save
Is
money
that the
and go
same
with
as
Buckeye.
D Sonic?
Yes, he's saying
That's
Class
what-
D Sonic.
Okay, yeah. So that one I know. Oh, I see. There's 2 Ds there. Gotcha. Yeah, so I've seen them, but I've never experienced any of them. Let me hit that super chat. Oh, here it is. Brian, appreciate the super chat. Yeah, I still wish they would throw those at the top and not put them at the bottom. Fairly new to home theater setup. His head is spinning, he says. Trying to get a good medium tier AVR with Emotiva 3-channel amplifier. Future, he's looking to buy the Martin Logan F200s. Great speakers. Kef R11s. I'm not familiar with those. Probably an Onkyo R70 AVR. He's looking at Denon A8 or maybe, I'm sorry, Yamaha A8A, the Denon 4800. So, oh man, no wonder your head's spinning, brother. You're looking at so many different things. And that's the hard thing is, oh, Neil, don't let me forget. Let me go at least star Neil's comment. Remind me after this one to hit his because he did a super chat, but then all right, y'all go ahead and talk. I'm going to find that comment. Thanks, Neil. Appreciate it, buddy.
I think he's using Emotiva speakers. I don't think he's using an Emotiva amp.
I thought it said amp.
No, it just says Emotiva 3-channel.
That's an amplifier.
I know it is, but
An XPA3. It could be.
then
a
he
basic
says future
A3.
ML2000s, and it makes me feel like he's.
Future Martin Logan speakers.
I know what. Sorry,
with his
ML.
Emotiva amplifier. That's the way I'm reading that. He's got a Emotiva, or maybe he's trying to. He's looking at that. He's looking at an Emotiva 3-channel amplifier. That could be the XPA3. It could be the DR3. It could also be the Basics A3. They make 3 different ones that I'm aware of. But then he's also got. He's looking at possibly getting either Martin Logan F200s or the Kef R11s. He just got a lot of questions. It's like, how do you advise somebody when they're literally brand new, looking at a bunch of different good possibilities?
I can tell you what I would do.
What would you do? Tell him.
So your comparisons between the Martin Logan 200s versus the Kef is the Kef are going to be more objective because they publish a lot of their data. The Martin Logans, I think, are heralded as almost universally liked by everyone. The 100 series just won 2023 one of the products of the year from Audioholics. Michael just changed out his clips for the 200s. I had the 200s in my living room for a long time. The B100s, which are the bookshelf version, did very well if tied with SVS at the speaker comparison at M-Wave last year. So I don't think you can really go wrong with them. Kef is, a lot of people like them. A lot of people don't. I mean, I don't know. I'd encourage you to go listen to them. Go listen to them. Best Buy should have both, though you are limited to the Best Buy listening rooms and if they're set up right. So take it with a grain of salt and remember that position, how they're set up, what potentially volume they're set at, are they level matched, is all going to influence, if there's a sub, influence how you take in that comparison. As for the receivers, I personally would go with Denon and Marantz. They've been around for a very long time. I just think know what they're doing. I don't know that you need a 4800. I think the 3800 would probably be fine. You're not gaining much except channel count over the 4800 or over the 3800 to the 4800. The other amps or AVRs are fine. I just think how long Denon has been doing this. Anki was out of the game for a while. Yamaha hasn't really done anything new in a long time, and the Sony is brand new, but has reviewed quite well from Audioholics and Matthew Pose. I just think Denon brings a lot for a pretty good price, and it has Dirac and Odyssey.
Any other thoughts, fellas?
I can't advise on the speakers because I don't think I've heard both of them. And even if I did, I'd follow the same advice Ryan said, which is hear them for yourself and see what you think. I'd have a tendency to go for the Denon 4800. And once again, if you watch the Adorama sales, you can find a good deal on that. They seem to come and go on those sales.
Sure.
Yamaha's a good brand. And a lot of people like those Onkyos. I mean, Sheldon had an Onkyo RZ50 or R50 or whatever, the one right below that one, and really liked it. And he's had a lot of experiences with different AVRs, Pioneer, and Yamaha, and Denon. He has the Denon. I think he bought a Denon from you, and he says that's like his favorite receiver he's ever had. So, you know, there's that too. But there's nothing wrong with. I'd be hesitant on the Sony just on history, but again, like Ryan said, they got great reviews. So Sony historically has great reviews and not that great of a product.
Yeah,
but maybe they've changed around.
Brian did give some context. He said yes on the Emotiva amp.
Darn.
Speakers still deciding on. Emotiva is going to run as LCR. I really like the nonlinear sound of the. So he said I'm pretty set on the M200s at this point. Rusty,
we heard F200s at M-Wave, right? That's not.
That is these.
Correct. Same ones. Yep.
Okay.
They were in the Martin Logan room with the Neelis.
Yeah, I like those.
They are
They're
good.
great little speakers, man.
They're not really little, but
That's a big room to fill, like a big room. And they did. I was that was the first time I'd ever heard them.
Well, and they were the speakers being used in the room correction comparison and all the bass layer.
Yeah. I was really surprised at how much bass they had in that big honking room.
They do really well.
Really, really nice.
They're really good.
That's the best part of it to me. So, Rusty, do me a favor. If you don't mind, scroll through. Neil said I posted my comment above. I have scrolled all the way back to his previous comment where he says, and I cannot find it.
Neil,
I don't know why.
Repost your comment.
I'll
keep
looking.
Yeah,
I know, but do it again so we can find it.
I'm so sorry, Neil. I scrolled up and I even came back down, went back up.
I looked earlier too, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I don't know if it. Yeah, Scott, you heard the F200s at M-Wave. What'd you think about those? Rick says Martin Logan's have a narrow dispersion. Kef is wider.
They do. That's correct.
I liked the F200s also. I liked their predecessor. From what was it, F100? What was the
60?
The 60 XTI
Motion? Was it? Oh, Motion 60 XTI. Yeah,
60 XTIs.
Yeah,
because I reviewed
they're great
those.
value too.
They are.
When I listened to those, I almost was ready to upgrade them, but I couldn't let go of my clips. To be honest,
it was the white that did you in, man.
It did.
It set you over the edge.
Well, it was that because it matched better, but it took me back to when I reviewed the 60 XTIs, and I always went back and went, man, did I screw up letting them slip by? You know. So I'm like, I got to. Yeah.
I'm not starting anymore. I just started.
Okay, so he says I reposted again. Neil, there's no way. Like your comments are getting deleted.
I don't see it.
I want to know why we have 17 comments left and it's like 3-hour podcast at this point.
Because we keep talking.
Well, y'all
what is going on here?
Neil, I have no idea what's going on, brother. I mean, I'm looking and there's no comment in the chat from you. I reposted again. LOL. Scroll up from here. Dude, I've been watching the comments.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on, man. I literally have scrolled up.
Super chat.
Looking. Oh, is it this one? If it's that one, okay. Yeah. Looking for people who want to join, host, and meet up. Gotcha. Holy cow. So sorry.
Is that the one we were looking for?
I don't know. That's the only one I can think of.
That's what we're going with.
I don't see anything else.
Super chat.
So hopefully I got it right.
Super chat.
All right, here we go. Wes, appreciate the super chat. Just picked up my X3800H after talking to Ryan about my options, setting it up now. Tips or advice? Questioning, should I use my mini DSP or use Odyssey? Great question, man. Any
Run
tips?
Odyssey and then don't change anything.
Don't do
Don't
that.
do that.
That's bad. All right. So Wes, again, this isn't the only way to do it, but I do have an Odyssey. If you search on YouTube, search for Youthman Odyssey 32 setup, something like that, or Odyssey setup. I do have a step-by-step walkthrough of how I choose to do it. So maybe that'll give you some guidance there, things that I like to turn on, turn off, adjust. I also have another one called, if you search for Youthman Immersive, that's the one I posted earlier that talks about the importance of level matching your speakers. I think that's like the first thing you want to do. Run Odyssey, make the tweaks. Again, these are my suggestions. You don't have to. Some of them are preference. Whether or not you use dynamic EQ, that sort of thing, and turn on or off the mid-range compensation. There's other things, setting curtains. So I mean, there's a lot to it, and there's certainly more than we could cover in a few minutes. But yeah, I would definitely do those types of things. Oh, he says above that one. Of course, it was above that
It's
one.
not there.
I'm telling you, man. I've looked. I don't see.
I just
jack.
went and looked.
Yeah. So we've had 3 people scroll, and it's not.
Yeah, I
It
went
literally is-
through.
I don't know why, but it's not showing up.
It
Anyway.
must be getting flagged or something.
Moving on, because
Make sure you're not posting a link. If you post a link, it just won't show up. I bet that's what's happening. If you're dropping a link, YouTube is going to put that as moderated. Like it won't do it because they're trying to prevent porn. They're trying to prevent spam, scams, different things like that. So
Did he didn't say whether he had a OmniMic or REW capability or anything like that, right?
no.
he just says, he's got a mini DSP. So hopefully he's got
Yeah, I'm not sure
calibration microphone.
what you'd have much use for a mini DSP if you don't have the measurement software to kind of figure out what you're doing with the mini
Yeah,
DSP, unless you're just doing it to taste, which is okay, I guess.
Wes, do you have a mic?
Good. He says he does.
Good. Cool. See,
So there's a couple of trains of thought on that, right? Some people run the mini DSP to use that to EQ their subs before they turn it over to Odyssey. So Odyssey doesn't have as much to mess up potentially. That's not a bad idea, actually. If you want to apply some just general EQ with your mini DSP,
Okay.
You're probably not going to be able to do the time alignment as well as Odyssey will, just frankly. You might be able to if you do your impulse response work, but Odyssey does a generally okay job with that, a pretty good job with that. So you could do a basic job with your mini DSP to set your EQ more or less flat. You don't have to make it perfect. Odyssey will go ahead and do that, and then run Odyssey over the top of it. That'd be my recommendation in the order.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it takes you a week to figure it out and learn it, and you're going to continue to learn it. The best thing to do is get in there and try different things.
Oh yeah,
Try different crossovers, take measurements, see what measures better. Try mid-range compensation on, mid-range compensation off. There's a lot that you can do. Some people, even in the Odyssey settings, there is an Odyssey flat, there's an Odyssey reference. And if I remember correctly, flat basically does not trim the top end. But if you set it to reference, I may be getting this backwards, but I think I'm correct. Reference will take the top end and it'll kind of dip it down. So it's not as bright on the top end. Preference. Some people like that on, or one versus other. A lot of it's just try different ones. He's got 4 subwoofers. So yeah. And you're going to spend a lot of time learning mini DSP. Definitely recommend a great tutorial system or series from Home Theater Gamer. He's got like 5 videos on walking you through how to use the mini DSP. So I think that'd be super helpful to you. All right, let's keep moving here. Tom, any recommendations how to acoustically treat sloped walls, aka home theater in a bonus room over a garage? So usually those have walls that kind of come up at an angle and then this flat ceiling on the top. So how do you
Same way you would treat other walls? Still a reflective
it's a flat surface. Yep. It's a reflective surface.
If he's talking about how to mount them, L brackets.
I think he's saying how to acoustically treat them.
Then the same way you would treat other walls. I mean,
The hard part probably is, I mean, that whole first reflection, that might be a little weird, but I guess he's got a flat wall, right? Isn't the bottom part flat? And then
maybe not.
Yeah.
Depends on the room.
because I don't think it goes flat or diagonal all the way to the floor. Usually, I
Some
think
rooms
it's
do.
up.
I had a room in my old house that had a wall that
Yeah.
did that. It just depends on how they
Yeah.
did it.
Okay. Yeah,
it's gonna be
definitely treat your room for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be. You might have some more strange things happening, but it's you're gonna treat it the same. You just got to figure out what's going on. Measure. REW.
All right, so I'm gonna tell you right now, we're not gonna get through all these. There's no way. Let me hit these super chats real quick. Nicholas, appreciate $2 super chat. Will Monolith 215 subs be able to hit single digits? Honestly, I don't know. And the reason why I say that is go back to my review of the 215. I'm pretty sure I did some measurements in my room. I just don't remember. I don't think it got single digits. The only single digits I've ever seen, the JTR RS2s. I don't even know if Tom's PSA S3611 got to, man, again, go back and look at those.
They
It
won't.
might.
They're port tuned to somewhere between 14 and 16 hertz, depending on which spec you look at on their website. So they're not going to do single digit.
Would room gain? Could he possibly
The Audioholics review shows a frequency at 12.5 hertz with the Monolith M215
it's close.
at 101 dB.
Okay.
No, and if you're trying to use room gain to it, you're amplifying, like if you're below port tone, you're getting all kinds of distortion, you're getting harmonics, you're getting bad things. And so if you're kind of in room gain to bring that up, you're amplifying, or your room gain's amplifying junk sound. You don't want it anyway. You want to filter that out.
Okay.
I think you'd be comfortable down in the mid-teens. Would be my bet.
Yeah.
I don't like straining subs.
That was the one subwoofer that knocked one of my speakers off my wall.
Good sub though.
Yeah, I mean, reality is, I know Michael talks a lot about single digit, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's fun to have it, but 15 hertz is a lot of fun too, and those subs will do that. So
I think we're all on the same line that if you can get a subwoofer down to 20 hertz, you're doing great. That's awesome. Anything below that is just bonus.
Well, hold on. If you can get a sub down to 20 hertz at above reference volume.
Yes, but yeah. All right.
I differ a tiny bit, but I'm in the same ballpark as you. I think 15 hertz is that magic number, where then I think it's really diminishing turns from there. Yeah. But I had two captivators that were 20 hertz port tuned, and they were powerful subs, right? You know, they were the Captivator Pros, 20 hertz tune, and I know that there's quite a bit of content, like a Hulk Stomp. That's like 16 hertz. You're just missing that last little bit of fun. That's really strong. So 15 hertz is my wish list on that.
But if you're at 15, I mean, you might as well go to 10, and if you're at 10, you might as well go to 5.
It's a game. You're right. But I think there's not a whole lot of content at single digits. There just really isn't. It's there. It's not a whole lot. Like Bass I Love You, that kind of stuff isn't there. But there is significantly more content above 15 hertz in cinema.
That hurts. Appreciate it. $2 super chat. Any news on the new rumored calibration mic, the Omni mic? Jonathan, did you get an update?
Ryan, you reached out most recently on that, didn't you? Or was it?
I think they're saying Q2 now.
That's always the next quarter.
They keep bumping it back, so we don't know when that's going to come. But they never responded to me. They don't like me. Ryan, do you know the minimum distance on a 158 CinemaScope for a Panamorph on a NZ9? You told him something. Have you slept since then?
Yes.
Okay.
Off the cuff, do you have your crib notes
for
this?
He doesn't know. Sorry. Anthony, any price increase with the Alpha? I don't know what an Alpha is.
That's
the Panamorph lens.
Oh, okay.
What is the MSRP on that thing?
I saw 10 grand earlier.
The theater's dying.
They're not cheap. So Alpha it's 10 grand.
Yeah.
The DCR XM2 was their previous flagship, and it was 9.
Yeah, you're going to spend as much on the lens as you are on the projector a lot of times.
He's got a Sony 7000.
What does that retail for?
30,
15?
almost.
Oh, that's a big one. Okay.
28 somewhere.
Still a lot. It's a third of the projector. Theater's dying, not home theater. COVID Android box used for pirated content. I get everything free. Not good. Push.
That's not cool.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to take full transparency.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was like, oh man, I don't want to pay anybody for anything. And I just want to have everything and be able to watch everything and whatever. It comes down to you're taking it, but you're not giving anything back.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not going to contribute, and if you think about this on a whole, and I get looking for sales and stuff, and you maybe you're not in a position to pay. I understand that. But if everybody takes and they don't give anything back, how are we going to get new content?
Yeah. And then I've got buddies, I've got patrons that are in the industry. I mean, like he just went a whole year almost with no paycheck because of the strike, you know? And so I did the same thing with Napster and LimeWire.
I think everybody did it
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at some point I just got to the realization, it's like, look, I need to support these artists or there won't be any artists in reality. Oh man, what do we do? We got 10 more.
Just rapid fire them.
All right.
Mhm.
We got less than 1 minute to answer each question. What investment level do you consider upper end for dedicated space?
Ooh.
See, I would say like if you're an enthusiast, once you hit the 10 grand mark, like that's kind of
Total?
your first level. I think
For
so.
upper level?
I wouldn't call that upper level. I was going to say that's
Yeah.
your first level where you're
Yeah.
now like an enthusiast.
You're not answering
right?
the question. Upper end. This is rapid fire, baby. Come on. Upper end.
Man,
We talking
that's crazy.
80,000, 50,000 at least?
I'd say upper end at least 40.
Okay. So I don't even know if that's upper end for a dedicated space.
That's going to get burned
Here's
up
a prime
real fast.
example. My room probably has about $80,000 in it total. I don't think it's upper end. Like when I think of upper end, I think Trenov. I think Ryan's room. I think Art's room with Eclipse.
Ryan is on a different planet. That's not
that's
upper end.
Isn't that upper end?
Upper end is subjective.
Yeah, I guess
upper end that's the top.
it's
top
so
is
relative though, because if you're talking about like just a TV, look, I know we don't have time to talk about this, but it's very relative.
If you're just talking equipment, I'm going to say somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000.
Yeah.
Because that would get you like an AV10. It'll get you like a $10,000 to $15,000 projector, solid speakers. I'm not including room treatments or anything like that. It'll get you good subs. I mean,
yeah, Claude says $100,000.
But sky's the limit, and upper end is very subjective. I mean, if you go on AVS, you're in the $20,000 plus for them. That's $20,000 plus for each piece of equipment that is in that. So I don't know. I mean, you could go like with anything with cars. What do you consider subjectively to be the upper end? It's different per person.
That weren't they weren't questions. They were just more comments. Yeah, this was in regards to the thoughts earlier. That's making it eeasier. What?
Rusty, you tried to answer, and Michael's like, "You didn't answer."
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
You're
Rusty.
wrong.
No, I'm done. I give up. I just want to go to bed. That's really all. I just want to finish the question so I can go to sleep.
They keep going up. They
Hit
say
it.
they're not starting anymore. It keeps going up.
I didn't start anything.
No, we haven't started any.
That was a super
It's a
chat.
super chat. Super chat automatically gets
God.
started. Yeah. Rusty, anything?
Funny.
You already asked him.
Okay,
He told
so
me he was wrong.
on the first one, are we doing? Oh,
I think we're on the new
Upper end. What did you consider
Oh.
upper end?
well,
A long
it
minute.
depends on who you're asking and where they're coming from, and that's where I was saying, like, if you're
Right.
talking to like my parents, upper
Mhm.
end is anything over like $1,000.
Yeah,
10,000 would be insane for
Right.
the people. Most of the people I know, if you tell them you spend $40,000 on a home theater, they would tell
love it.
you that was the next level of insane. Lightning round volume 3. Exactly.
And Rusty's already asleep.
And then, and of course, once you cross 6-figure, now you're in like in-game or for
Mhm,
me, what
sure.
I call in-game
That's upper level.
territory.
That's upper level, baby.
Yeah,
What would that be?
there's a lot of
Super
different
level then?
uppers.
You know, I
It
mean,
just keeps going
super upper level,
because you keep
maximum
adding.
upper
If you
level.
keep adding rows of seats and just
Yeah,
room, and then
you can
you
get it.
add a Star Wars theme, next
Yeah.
thing you know, you're at the $1 million+ range.
Yeah, for sure. J.R. Hernandez, $5 super chat. Appreciate you, brother. Can you please briefly explain? There is nothing brief on this podcast. Explain what the difference between port tune and how low a sub can go.
I'd take this one if you guys want.
Do it,
Go
man.
ahead.
Hit it. You got
All
30
right.
seconds.
So a subwoofer doesn't determine the port tune. The box determines the port tune. The air in the box is resistive to the subwoofer driver movement. And so once you go below the port tune, that's what the box is port tune. That's the resonant frequency of the box. You do what's called unloading the driver. And the excursion is no longer controlled by the dampening of the air in the box like a sealed driver. It becomes open. It becomes a parallel to like a open air driver. So the resistance that the driver's encountering in movement from the air goes to basically null within a couple hertz of the subwoofer port tune. And at that point, the excursion becomes dangerous to the driver with high signal coming in. And it also creates harmonic distortions, and the distortion percentages go way up. So the driver in a different box could probably go all the way down to 2 or 3 hertz, 1 hertz, whatever. But the box determines the port tune. And so that box then is how low the sub can go without encountering severe distortion. Does that make sense? I think that's
Jonathan's
it.
wrong, but we're out of time. So I'm going to just keep moving on to the next one. No,
Jonathan
that's
is
great
100%
explanation.
right, by the way.
Appreciate it,
Ignore
man.
Michael.
I'm just having fun, man. Hey, if you can't have fun, why are we doing this?
What was the one about 7.1.4 and 5.1.2
go back to that
that
first
you
one.
just
So
okay?
leadership push 5.2.4 versus 7.2.4. Big difference in a 12.6, 12 by 16 room, 9-foot ceilings. So if he upgrades, adds 2 more bed layer speakers, is that going to be a massive difference for his size room?
I love wides, so I would say yes.
Well, that's
He
not
likes
wide though.
big
That's
wides and he
That's
cannot
rear
lie.
surround typically.
rear
Yeah, you're right.
surround.
I would say yes.
I
Well-
say it depends on how much you want to spend, because it's like that's a huge. I think you start taking pretty big chunks of diminishing return every time you add a pair over 5. Like 5 to 7 is still a pretty big improvement, but going 7 to 9, less of an improvement, and past that, it's just diminishing. But I think you look at it in terms of your well, I mean, Atmos or Dolby's and angles, but those angles translate into distances. So when you hit the wall, and how far are you spreading those speakers apart? If you have 2 speakers that are 2 feet apart, it's not that big a difference.
Yeah, I did not. So I went from 5.1 to 7.1. I didn't hear a huge difference, but part of that too is my rear speakers are mounted really high. They have to be. I just don't have the room to bring them down. So that could be a factor in why I don't hear a massive difference in those. But
I will also say that my room is 14 by 18 and a half, and I have 9 speaker bed layer, and I wouldn't give them up. Like, I don't want to go backwards.
yeah,
I enjoy it.
cool. So before we get to the last, I think 2 questions, we do have a contest going on. So if you're interested in coming to M-Wave, even if you already got your tickets, man, I want to encourage you with it. I'm going to make a video tomorrow on it, but go to midwestavexperience.com/contest. And all you got to do is make a 90-second video or less, just telling what your home theater experience is and why you want to come to M-Wave. We don't have a lot of submissions, so your chance of winning is actually really good. I'm telling you, hint, hint, go do it. Don't mess around. Get that in before, I think, the 14th. That's when we'll review all of them and declare a winner. We'll do it live on a podcast the following week. But yeah, just want to throw that out there. Last couple here. Oh, dadgum you. Look at you. Jonathan Rules. Appreciate it.
Now you're just torturing us. They're just throwing
He's gonna drag it on, man. Rob, since this was mentioned, how do you like the Ascendo 16 compared to the JTR RS1s?
I think the Ascendo 16 is really good, but I don't have any objective data. Well, I have objective data, but I don't have a direct head-to-head comparison to be able to give you a honest answer.
in the same room.
The Ascendo 16 measures very, very well, but I don't have I've never done a comparison. So
What's the price on the 16?
3,300.
Oh, so the exact same price.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Got one in my living room. It's really good
All
stuff.
right. Last question of the night. First of all, if you had fun, man, hit the like button. Just take a second. Oh, you guys suck, Jayhawk.
Ivan,
You suck, man. Look at this.
thanks for helping me move the driver
told you
today,
that
by the
one
way.
penny.
That's hilarious, man. Come on, Ryan. Can you say JTR is better? That's hilarious. But anyway, hit the like button. And last question of the night. This has been fun, man. We have a great time. Appreciate all the guys on here that share their time with you, to love on you, to answer questions, to help, and to have some fun, man. We've done that tonight. So Joshy, last question of the night. If you do blind test, will you be able to differentiate whether a processor or an AVR used in a home theater? If not, why do we have to invest in huge money on expensive processor? Great stinking question. Age-old question. Is a processor innately better than a AVR all-in-one? I think there's a lot of components there. I think part of it, think of it this way. If you have inefficient speakers, if you have an amplifier that's built into the AVR that is incapable of sufficiently driving and powering those to reference level, there can be a huge difference there by going to separates, because now you're getting dedicated power per channel. Typically with external amplification, you get what's rated. If it's 200 by 7, you're getting 200 watts by 7. It doesn't diminish. It doesn't go down when you go from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7. But I don't personally believe just because you buy a processor necessarily means you're going to get a better, higher performance, better sound quality than an AVR. There are some fantastic AVRs on the market. I just mentioned the other day the SR8015, phenomenal. Jonathan has owned a bunch of the Denons, the 4800. I have the 3800 in my living room. Great. Some people love Yamaha. So I don't think that just because you buy a processor that you can expect, that, oh man, this is next level. This is gonna take me to the top. Because Jonathan, you're still rock. Well, no, I guess. Well, yeah, you're not doing a dedicated. Well, no, you do have the AV10 now, right?
Yeah, but I don't make any pretense that I can tell the difference. That's for sure. And I'll bring this up to the front. I've talked about this in a podcast before, but in a 2014 comparison, we had a $4,000 amplifier. We had 3 or 4 different flagship receivers. We did a blind test, and one of the receivers was just an AVR. Didn't even have the amp. It was an Onkyo AVR, like a $350 type AVR. Mm-hmm. In that blind test, the dang Onkyo won. So you take from that what you will.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of the consideration is going to be the number of channels, and then also the number of amplified channels, because sometimes they can decode more channels than they can actually power. But if you're running a high channel count, it's not even that. It's like, I mean, if you're comparing like 5 channel to 5 channel, you probably, and the amps can keep up that are built in, you probably won't hear the difference. But when you start another one, hey, here's a new sales strategy for you.
Marketing strategy
how
right
long
there.
we can go and how much you can make. But like sound, as long as you're powering everything appropriately, you probably can't hear a difference. But where you run into a limitation is when you're getting the higher channel counts. You just run out of physical space inside of an AVR to have appropriate sized power supplies and amplifier modules and appropriate cooling and all those things. So your difference is you can't fit 16 channels in an AVR. I don't actually.
A1H would like to have a word with you, Rusty.
Is it?
The Denon
15
A1H
channels
has
and 4
16
subs.
channels and 150
15
watt
channels and
mono
4
blocks on
subs.
each.
Well, now I'm getting sued.
And it's
Sorry.
rated it's rated the best AVR that's ever come out, and it rivals.
Yeah,
it beats most processors.
It's
for that
really
matter.
good. But one
there you
thing
go.
that nobody talked about, and I don't think you're going to be able to hear a difference. Let me phrase that. My point was, I misread the question at first. Is a pre better than an AVR? Typically, yes. When you start getting to a certain echelon, and the thing that people don't consider is most pre's have XLR.
Gosh.
Right? So the XLR is balanced, can potentially remove noise from the whole equation. And then XLR almost universally has higher voltage output, which is going to help with gain going to your amps. So those two considerations and channel count and other things to think about, as Rusty brought up, yeah, they can be better. Will you hear a difference in a blind comparison? Probably not, unless the balanced outputs are doing something to defeat distortion and noise.
Are you guys doing an auto EQ comparison this year again with the quick switching?
No.
I wonder, man, it'd be so worthwhile for the audience here to get like a $500 Onkyo or something. It doesn't matter. I don't care what brand.
Yeah.
Turn off EQ, carefully level match those things. Take whatever amp you want. Go buy some sort of a Halo amp and take a processor and just A/B switch between the two. Obviously you can get a speaker that'll blow it up like your Martin Logan Renaissance speakers you had because the impedance is too low. But just take an 8-ohm speaker, some sort of clips or something, run it at a normal volume and let A/B switch, and people would have their minds blown. I really think it would turn out exactly like that. And so that would be a good test at some point in the future for another M-Wave, if not
the
this
funny
year.
one would be have a really cheap one and have a really expensive one and tell people you were doing A/B switching, but you actually weren't. That would mess with people. And it would be shocked. People would be shocked. I mean, we may do some of that in the future. I think this year I just need a little bit of a break on some of that big stuff. We're doing a lot of video things this year because what people don't consider is that the audio stuff takes a lot of time to set up because you got to do the whole room and then you got to specify the whole room. And it just, even if you're doing one thing, it still takes a lot of time to set up. So big shout out to Bob for doing a lot of that in the past. He put in a tremendous amount of time doing that.
Yeah, he did.
That was a great demonstration last year on that. You guys did a wonderful job.
Yeah, and that took him a long time to set up for sure. And I didn't even get him a lanyard.
You're terrible.
So
terrible.
Mike says that Gene actually specifies that a lot of pre's now don't have balanced XLR outputs.
There are only two, not three.
They have XLR, but they're not fully balanced. They call it.
That's dumb.
Yeah,
that's been like that for a long time. Actually, I don't think that's new.
And that's a waste of money.
What's the point of that, though?
Nothing.
Because for home theater distances, the difference between RCA and XLR is basically null. I mean, you got to have an RCA cable that's so long to pick up noise. Generally speaking,
okay.
Well, you don't. I mean, XLR is designed for like pro audio stuff where you're running a cable 150 feet or something.
Yes.
We don't do that in home theater.
No.
Then why use XLR if you're going to?
It does have higher voltage, like Ryan said. It typically has higher voltage, but the reality is, people say it has higher voltage, and then they made it to an amp that uses 1.2 volt, max signal. So the higher voltage does nothing for them.
It doesn't help.
Or 0.775 incoming voltage. Like there's a lot of misunderstanding.
Let's be real here, though. Most people don't even consider the voltage coming out.
But they all use that as a bullet on their
No. I'm saying the consumer, not the manufacturer. The consumer doesn't even usually consider that. In memory of Neil's comment.
I can just imagine all of our audience just like glad handing in the back. Keep adding these things. Funny.
We're done.
All right, man. I was looking for.
And Nick,
I
put the super chat.
He's like, send me a text message.
I think it's just a troll.
Nick's gonna post in here and be like, "You guys thought you were done. Here's one more question," and just keep going.
No. Neil actually, he actually runs a Facebook group. and he's got a not Midwest. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Wait. Let's talk to Ivan here. Ivan's one of our hosts in Kansas City, by the way. If you guys are looking for,
and he's going to be on the show next week.
I
think Ivan's going to be on here next week. I'll look at the calendar.
Yeah, but that's probably because of voltage in SPL.
Yeah. That's
you can almost guarantee it's volume.
Get out your SPL meter and your calibrated mic and measure them exact same, and then give it another toss.
Because the XLR will be louder, more than likely.
Yeah.
Excited to have you, Ivan. Next week he'll be here. All right, so we're done.
Ivan's got a great sounding system. So, like, I see Scott Friend said he's going to Ivan's. You'll enjoy that.
Nice, man.
He's getting that new Revel center.
So Ivan's got one of the home theater experiences. So you guys can check that out. Yeah. See you, Benny. All right, guys. We got about another 30 minutes here, so I'm gonna look through the comments. Just kidding. Hey, man, I hope you guys have had a blast, man. We love hanging out. And Jonathan, did you ever realize you were signing up for a daggum 3.5 hours?
No, I was gonna come on here tonight and say I just wanted to spend an hour, and here we are. What's going on here?
I had to clean
you guys, and I've said this 1,000 times that you don't ever have to apologize ever. All you got to do is give me a peace sign.
You don't have to do that. Just leave.
See ya. Type it in the chat. Have a good night, guys, and just bail.
Bye.
No, it's not a big deal. I promise. If you got to go eat, if you got to take a dump, whatever you got to do, man. If you got to shampoo the carpets.
Rusty, did you see that?
Rusty, I know what he's talking about. Yeah.
That was awesome.
We could have watched 2 movies, Grave.
Two
That's
movies.
how long we've been on here.
For sure, man.
3 if it's a Disney animated short or movie.
Better start working on my 90-second video for M-Wave.
Why are we still here? This is what we do at this point.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I will have a 90-second. I will have a new M-Wave. Oh, let's play it now for them.
No.
Oh, you should actually. That is a really cool video. I think that's super cool.
I'm gonna share it on my next video. That'll be tomorrow. So look for a new video tomorrow, guys. Hope y'all have an incredible week. We'll catch you in the next one.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.
Just kidding.